Yeah.
But put your mask on.
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's how I roll.
Here all night.
Gabby, go outside and walk back in.
I threw him off.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Tuesday, August 15th, 2017 City of Oldsmar City Council meeting to order. If you'll please rise for our invocation and our pledge that will be led by our city attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Heavenly Father, as the citizens of the city of Oldsmar meet together to address our local concerns and opportunities, we give thanks to you for the bounty that we enjoy in all aspects of our community life. We ask for your inspiration to strive for excellence in our endeavors to serve the public and grant us peace in our world and harmony between all people to your greater glory. This we pray.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic in which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, welcome. I will have you know that when I had kids at home, a gavel would never have stopped the crowd from talking like you do. But it works here, so thank you, and once again, welcome. Our first item on tonight's agenda is the Citizens Open Forum. It allows you to address the City Council. We only have a couple of rules. No more than 5 minutes. You state your name and address clearly for the record. And you can talk towards anything on the agenda. If you're speaking towards items 13 and 14, those are public hearings. We ask that you wait till such time as we get to those, and we'll call you as part of the public hearing. Having said that, we'll start on the loud side over here. Anybody? Yep, yes, ma'am. Nope, up to the...
First time. Hello. Marsha Lauder, 863 Christina Circle. I just wanted to come before you and just bring up the issue of the lighting ordinance, if there's any way that we could have some kind of restrictions on residential light. I know there's one on like public or businesses, but if we could have like a restriction on the amount of wattage or lights that can be placed.
And to that point, I was just talking with our city manager. Can I ask a question of
Yes.
you, if you could help us as well? We're going to look into our ordinances and see, I don't think we have something specific towards lighting.
Yeah.
But there may be something else that we might be able to do. And I live in an HOA, as do you.
Right.
If you could just check and see if there's anything, and maybe you already know, if there's anything within your HOA guidelines that, not necessarily the lighting, but the construction of a, I don't know how tall it is. I know you went and saw.
I drove by over the weekend after Howard had come and spoke at the workshop.
Wrigley Field, I heard.
Yeah, Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I was so surprised by it. It was almost, and I was out by the road, but it was like
It lights out the whole
platform.
bay.
How
There were
tall?
like 3 platforms. I don't know, it was pretty
They're
high.
about 7 feet high, aren't they?
Yeah.
How high?
6 or 7 feet high.
Yeah,
Okay.
they
There's
were up
3 of
there.
them.
I mean, they were extended past the fence.
Oh, okay.
And they weren't, what I expected was something kind of going out towards the water or maybe something security-wise. This is like pointed at the neighbor's home. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. I mean, it's obnoxious, and there's things to consider. I mean, there's legitimately light pollution, and many ordinances, because I did a little looking into it, have such a thing as light trespass. And it's really intended for that specific reason.
Yeah, and Bruce and I've talked about it too, and I agree, and he's going to get with Marie and see what we can do, what other angles that we can approach. But, I also look at the factor of, when you see those commercials on TV with the lights on, I mean, sometimes, but at security, somebody but that's not what's happening. I get that, but.
Yeah, no.
So we'll definitely
This is
check
a
it.
full-on, where were you Friday night at 3 o'clock
Yeah.
kind of light thing.
But if you could just check with your HOA president or somebody and see if there's any other guidelines that.
I'll check again. I know we've gone through it once,
Pretty
but we'll go through it again and see if there's anything else.
Do you have a picture we can just pass down?
Well, it's almost like
This
the,
one is from the 580 bridge, and this is from directly in my backyard.
oh my God.
And are you part of the same house?
No, we're in the same community.
Can you just maybe just state your name and address for the record? Just
My name is Nicole Steffensmeyer, 816 Christina Circle.
Okay, just because you're submitting stuff for us.
This is almost like the water ordinances. You cannot dump water on your neighbors.
Right.
So why would this not be the same as you can't dump a bunch of light?
Well, yeah, we'll look into it.
I wouldn't want a spotlight on my house.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, wait till you see that.
Is it okay if we just
I
keep
went
the
out there.
pictures?
Yeah, plenty more.
Find
Thank you.
something
We'll see what we can
Very
do.
much for your help. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you have I don't know if you can get her information or somehow we can communicate or let them, I don't know, a card from the clerk's office maybe? Or yours?
Well, I can give you mine too.
Do you have Bruce's or no?
Bruce's.
Okay, she's got a card.
Okay, I think I have everyone's.
Perfect, thanks.
And we appreciate your email.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
For applying, I really appreciate
Thanks.
that. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Yep. Suda?
Good evening, Sudi Yanis Cologne, 402 Arlington Avenue East, Oldsmar, Florida. I'm here as Miss Suda's dance teacher. We had our summer showcase recital this past Sunday on the beautiful Ariel stage, and we were honored. We had a great little turnout for our dancers. So we're off for 3 weeks. First week in September, we'd like to pass the word that we will be starting up for our Christmas show, which is also held with Christmas Wonderland. First Friday, December 1st in December. So pass the word to any of those little dancers out there, guys and girls that would like to join us.
Have
Thank
you-
you very
have you-
much for, yeah.
Have you ordered the vice mayor's tutu?
Actually, I have it standing by. I had the hula skirt ready for you this weekend. So now you have a hula skirt and a tutu.
That's right, there you go, Dan.
Yes.
I'm ready.
You ready, Dan? All right, we'll take good care of you.
He'll pull it off.
And thank you to the staff, of course, at Leisure Services and the city council and everything for continuing to support our dance program.
Thank you for all you do. Anybody else on this side of the room? Yep. John? Kale?
You gonna get it right this time?
Renbior?
He's been practicing
Now-
that for a month.
Yeah, but you got a kick out of Channel 8 the other day when they messed my name up.
I did. I said, how I felt. Dale Renbior, 403 Arlington Avenue East, Mayor and Council. It's good to see you all. I'd like to discuss, I've been reading this, Florida Statute 286-114, I see we're following the letter of the law, but I don't see we're following the spirit of the law.
What, can you reference? We don't know it by,
It is how we are allowed to address council as a citizen. It is public meetings, reasonable opportunity to be heard, and attorney's fees. The purpose of this section, Board of Commission, means Board of Commission, and I'll read it in its entirety. I like that. Title only. It says, it describes and outlines how we're allowed and how you're allowed to have these forums and how to let us speak to you and our issues. And it says here that members of the public shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard on a proposition before a board or commission. The opportunity to be heard need not occur at the same meeting on the proposition. If the opportunity occurs in the meeting, that is during the decision-making process and within reasonable proximity and time of the meeting which the board or commission takes the official action. This section does not prohibit the board or commission from maintaining orderly conduct or proper decorum in a public meeting. The opportunity to be heard is subject to rules and policies adopted by the board or commission as provided in subsection 4. Now, this is where you're following the letter of the law by allowing us to speak on an agenda item like item 11 at the forum. Well, I get to speak on agenda item. I'm using that just a general. This happened to me 2 meetings ago. I came to the forum to speak on agenda item 11. Marie Dauphiné, the planning director, provided a PowerPoint presentation.
what was the item? Is this the school?
The rezoning of.
School board.
The rezoning of the vacant lot
PCCR.
east of the library.
Yeah, okay, the library property, yep.
PCCR from R2. And I'm on the planning board. And when I voted to approve, I mean, I haven't finished reading all of this.
No, that's fine, I
got
understand, I know where
5
you're going.
minutes.
I know where you're going.
Not anymore. Not anymore, Joe.
Sorry, it's my forum. So Dave says 5 on each item, right? Tilke, I saw that. It's a
I'm
precedent.
changing subjects altogether.
So anyway, it was back on the Board of Adjustment when one of the members did a drive-by on a piece of property. And Tom Trask came to the meeting and says, you can't do that. You have to make your decisions on information provided by staff. You can't, you know more than the rest of them. So you can't do that. So when Marie presented the PowerPoint, I saw that you're allowed to put a 50-foot tall structure in a TCCR zone designation, which then, which we changed it from R2 to TCCR, allows possibly a 50-foot tall Burger King overlooking the swimming pool of the R2 home on its property line, which will sell a lot of burgers. So there's no protection with a TCCR in this case, which is a later agenda item. But because I didn't know that, either at the planning board meeting, which I voted for this zoning change, and I didn't know it until the other night when Marie put her PowerPoint up, all of a sudden I have more information. And now I can't come up and talk about it because I already talked about it at the forum. So I understand to keep decorum, but I'm not, and I heard Mayor Jerry, former Mayor Beaverland say, there's no dialogue, you know, the way you're doing this. And yeah, there isn't, because now I could have come up and said, wait, let me speak on this 50-foot thing, because now I have more information, because before all I had was an opinion, now I have facts. Sure. So that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention. If you could possibly, and in the old days, we could come up and talk on anything.
That's not true.
That's not 100% true.
That's not 100% true.
I mean, I used to come up over in the old post office and I'd chat all night
not
long,
saying
and the mayors let me do it.
I'm not saying it didn't happen, but we just made the rule change probably
I know that.
2 years ago. So
I know that in the old days, I said.
Yeah.
So, and I know this law came out in order to protect us because we weren't being allowed to speak.
Sure.
So there's got to be a happy medium. When there's an agenda item that the facts changed. I mean, the PowerPoint wasn't in the agenda. It wasn't on the printable items on the city website. And
I appreciate that, and that's my discretion as to if I feel that there's information that might be helpful or that you didn't get in this particular case. I have done that before, and also the other point of that is that we knew this was just a motion to move it forward, or a vote to move it forward. We knew that there were still going to be public hearings, which then, in fact, there will be dialogue back and forth. So I think it went well. I think the meeting went well, but there are public hearings as part of this process, and there'll be several more as part of this process.
as you say, the spirit of the law and the letter of the law are a little different.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I have more to say, but, 5 minutes is up. Second item.
I don't think that's the spirit of the law.
I don't think that's the spirit. I don't think that's the spirit, but go
I'd
ahead.
like to speak to agenda item.
But go ahead.
Yes, indeed. How am I going to do this? Agenda item 16. Authorize city attorney to prepare development agreement 52 homes on.
What item? I'm sorry? Oh, 16.
Yeah, and since I can't speak to it when it comes up on the agenda, I need to speak to it now. I hope there isn't further information that would then create a dialogue.
And again, this is similar to the other, is that it's to move to do a development agreement, and then there will be public hearings and so on and so forth. So
Back in 2012, the city vacated School Street between St. Petersburg Drive, approximately 203 feet north Arlington Avenue, and Clarendon Street, previously vacated portion current to School Street. The discussion really says they just paper streets, we need to vacate them. Well, that's really great. I mean, there's just a recommendation that they vacate them. David Tilke sent an email on March 6, 2012 saying, and I speak for Dave, it's public record, many years ago, the downtown CRA was being developed and much talk about buffering, setbacks, even transitional lots, all to protect existing residential neighborhoods. This vacation is a great step forward to buffering the residents of our... Stop it.
we'll add
I did that on
15.
purpose.
We'll add 15 seconds to your time.
This vacation is a great step in buffering the residents on Arlington from the inevitable development. The next step would be a way to prevent the lot on Arlington from ever being used as access to development on St. Pete Drive, such as on State Street, also on Clarendon, where the hotels and businesses have back entrances. Everybody voted for it, that's great. There is really no ideas or discussion on why we're doing it. I thought it was because we wanted what is it with the echo here? We wanted a community center. Well, I don't know where the paradigm shift occurred with City Council from the community center, which really needs to be a civic center, convention center on that property, which if you did that with an aggressive marketing campaign and somebody that's really pushing, renting that place out, 300 people will be walking out of the convention center every day, going down State Street to the Starbucks, the Dairy Queen, the whatever, and pretty soon your downtown redevelopment is all walkability, as Ms. McGee likes to say. Putting 52 townhomes there and 400 people is not the way to really achieve density. That's urban sprawl within the city. So I still find it to be a bad idea. Now you can't be heard. So it says here the land needs to be rezoned R2 residential to classification residential low when the city of Oldsmar, the vacation of School Street and Clarendon was initially presented in January 17, 2012. So R2, which we voted to change to TCCR, was there for a buffer to protect those homes. This development agreement doesn't allow for that. So if this development agreement does not go through, you can have a parking garage of the Burger King up against these people's homes, which to me doesn't protect their property, which is one of our guidelines as council, as a city. What do we hope to gain from this? Is it for the community or is it for the almighty dollar? I don't know. I think money's a good thing, but then again, we've been promised for 20 years to have a community center. I don't think that's a good idea. I think a civic center and a convention center combination is a better idea. And that's not going to cause the kind of traffic or density humanity that's there 24 hours a day. It will be there during a convention and then they'll go away. So the paradigm shift that occurred from the convention center concept to density through a housing project, when did that happen? Was it the college kids that came to town? Did you all go to a seminar to change the rules? What went wrong here?
Nothing went
You want a
wrong.
response?
Nothing went wrong.
Yes, I'm done talking.
Okay, so let me give you a response, because during that period of time, what you may not be aware of, if you go back and you look at everything between here and then, the city council, and Jerry might have been mayor at the time, I know it was either Jerry or Jim, we went forward looking at a civic center type facility over there, and we actually spent quite a bit of money doing the research, hired a firm that came through and went through the entire process, and at the end of the day, the economics of it was nothing like what you might think they would have been. For cities this size, it actually was going to be kind of a drain, and the likelihood of it being booked all the time, as you're suggesting, was not very likely. And so
Changed since then, and we have 4 hotels, a 5th coming, right?
that might be,
We have five, but, and I don't want to get into, but I would tend to agree with Councilmember Seidel that if that demand was truly there, we have 6 acres of property right by City Hall that if somebody privately wanted to come in and build one, if the dollars made sense, they would probably do that.
The community center or the convention center or whatever, never really made any sense. I was never really for that myself. And I never really made it because there's not enough room over there for it.
For anything of any size.
Right, there's not.
I mean, you got the Hamptons that,
Have a parking garage too.
From the library all the way to State Street, it's a lot of property. Well, anyway, I've said my piece, and my whole point here is do not open School Street to Arlington.
okay, that'll be another discussion that you'll be welcome to speak at as well. Anybody else on this side of the room? All you people yakking
Lot of
before.
people.
A lot of
Nothing
people
to
had,
say
there was a
about
lot to talk about before the meeting. Probably had nothing to do with the meeting, I guess. huh?
This side over here on the right looks like talkers,
Yeah,
Mayor.
okay, all the talkers on this side of the room? Yes. Gary Antozzi.
Go on a different subject.
Good evening, Jerry Antozzi, 509 Shore Drive East. I would like to mention to all of you, if you've been down Lafayette, have you seen the new road that goes into the treatment plant? Well, last Thursday, I'd like to compliment Felicia Donnelly's she's a leisure services director, and her sustainability coordinator, Trista Roffrey. They coordinated a project working with Keep Pinellas Beautiful, and it was the city of Oldsmar. And there was at least 10 of us there last Thursday from 8 in the morning to 12. So by 12 noon, we looked really good. But what we did is, the project was to plant sunshine mimosa. We didn't drink mimosas, but we planted them.
Whatever you say, Jerry,
Yeah, I
whatever
know.
you say.
And then they brought the mulch in, the recycled mulch, and at the end there was Tim Jacobson promising they'd be watered, and they look green. I went by the other day. But I just wanted to thank Leisure Services for doing this project and working with the community. Yes. We had representatives from the Zip Line, the Empower Group, also the Organic Garden Group. There was 2 of us from the Oldsmar Historical Society, and there was a couple, just the community, that came out to plant. So,
Awesome.
thank
That's
you.
great. Yeah. We planted plants. We didn't plant mimosas, just so the community knows. Yeah.
That might be why the mimosas are all over the place.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Yes. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Louisa Ray. This is Elena Madera. We're with Clean Slate. We're a new medication-assisted treatment center that opened in Florida.
Clean slate.
Clean Slate.
Okay.
We are located next to Tampa Community Hospital in the Town and Country area, and you are the center manager for 2 in South Florida.
Implantation and Margate, coming soon.
Coming soon. We are different from other opioid treatment centers because, number one, we don't prescribe methadone. We prescribe evidence-based medication that we know works, which is Vivitrol and Suboxone. We are not a cash and carry. We are outpatient only, which is also nice because a lot of people don't have an outpatient. They have residential, IOP, and they need somebody, that'll treat just as an outpatient basis so these people can work, and carry on with their lives instead of being in a residential facility for 30 days. We have been open since 2009. We have 28 clinics in 8 states, and before the end of the year, we're supposed to have another 8 to 10, another 6 in Florida, I was told just this week. As you know, Governor Scott has declared Florida a national state of emergency for the opioid epidemic. Trump also issued a countrywide epidemic this week. So we are here to fight the disease. It is a brain disease, which we all know. We are not cash and carry. Again, we don't prescribe methadone. We don't believe in that medication. We do accept all major insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, and anything else you want to add?
That was most of it.
No. We just wanted to introduce ourselves. We are also having an open house this coming Monday between 1:30 and 4:30. Senator Dana Young will be in attendance, and so will County Commissioner Merman.
Okay.
So I have some information.
Yep, you can leave it. If you give it to the clerk, she'll make sure that we get it all. Also, I don't know if Jerry, I don't know if you can if you have a card, Custom, with the chamber, one of our chamber people is here, so he might, right in the yellow shirt, he might be a good person to talk to, too.
Okay, perfect.
You may already have, I don't know, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I've seen some new bodies come in. Anybody else like to address the council? Jamie, I'll get to you in a second. Yep. Anyway, saw somebody come in.
Name is Cliff Danielson, 400 Arlington, and I'm more or less agreeing with Dale. I wish School Street not to be opened or let onto Arlington. It will be disruptive to my street and the neighborhood.
Okay, Thank you. Tonight's really just the development agreement. This is just the first of many steps, so.
I was invited, so that's
Yep,
fine.
no problem. You're welcome to come every time. Anybody else in the room like to address the council?
May I speak on a different subject?
Yes, ma'am. Huh?
I'll make it short.
Make it quick.
Sudi Yantis Cologne,
Because
402
you help our little
Arlington
kids dance.
Avenue East, Oldsmar, Florida. Just a reminder on, I was just reading up here, strategic vision statement, partnering with families, businesses, and visitors to make Oldsmar a creative, vibrant, and thriving community. You know where I'm going with this? I don't think I even have to point that out. Does Safety Harbor have a community center? You guys should know it has a thriving one. Does Tarpon Springs have a community
Then
center?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Does Largo have a community center?
I'm tracking with you. Yes.
Yep, okay. Does Palm Harbor?
Yes.
Everyone around
Oldsmar's going to
us.
have one, and I told you about it.
And I was just saying that, again, if this is not the location for a community center, I hope that we open the doors to other locations. Next to the library, the other statement I want to make is families want to move into an area with a community center. So if we have 52 townhomes with just a library, we're not offering them as much as we really need to offer our community. So, thank you.
Thank you. And to that, and to Jerry said, I think at some point we will. We've got some infrastructure things that we have been putting off when the economy went south. So we're a service provider. We need to make sure that you have water and sewer and roads that work. So, you know, those things goes with, but hopefully at some point we will. So thank you. Nobody else in the room? I'll close the citizens open forum. I'll do my quick mayor's minute. Kind of a recap, Purple Heart Recognition Day. I was able to join the city of Dunedin for a special ceremony to honor all veterans and Purple Heart recipients. That was great to be at. The legislative luncheon, thank you to Upper Tampa Bay Chamber for again hosting their legislative luncheon. Great to hear from our elected officials on what they are working on for Oldsmar during the annual event. Also, the Mayor's Council, we had guest speaker Gus Bilirakis, who brought us up to date on legislation in DC. Also, the employee picnic, great seeing the city employees enjoying their summer indoor picnic at the Cypress Forest Rec Center. Thank you to Craft Street Kitchen for the catering. Some upcoming events, some of us are going to the Florida League of Cities this week and weekend, the Florida League of Cities annual conference. Looking forward to learning a lot. Plus, can't wait for the award ceremony on Saturday night, awarding the city of Oldsmar for the Spirit Award for the state of Florida. Also, the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber 19th hole mixer. The city will have a disc golf course hole at Jack Willie's for the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber 19th hole mixer. Should be an interesting evening. Also, Celebrate Oldsmar, free family fun, Friday, September 1st from 6 to 10, Soul Circus Cowboys. And then Saturday the 2nd from 6 to 10, Stormbringer plus fireworks, food trucks, craft beer, bounce houses, carnival, community table, and more. Looking for volunteers, 813-749-1260. And just a reminder, holiday closures, that all city library facilities will be closed on Monday, September 4th in observance of Labor Day. That wraps up the mayor's minute. Our first item on the agenda is the consent docket, where we have, it looks like 8 items. I'll read them. Approve the minutes of the May 16th, 2017 City Council meeting. Approve the minutes of the July 20th, 2017 City Council meeting. Approve payment to legal counsel. Item 4, approve the first one-year extension with Jones Edmonds and Associates for RFQ 2014-04, General Engineering Services for Utility Professional Services Agreement. Item 5 is approve work order number 12 to RFQ 2014-4 for downtown galvanized water main replacement and reclaimed water line additions bidding and construction service pursuant to water and wastewater consulting agreement between the City of Oldsmar and Jones Edmonds and Associates. Number 6, authorized to the purchase of a Toro Multi-Pro boom sprayer per the pricing terms and conditions of the City of Mesa, Arizona, National IPA Contract Number 2017025, parentheses, PB 17-009, close parentheses. Item 7, accept the resignation of Sean Osborne from the Planning Board and the Code Enforcement Board. And item 8, approve the tentative agenda for September 5th, 2017. If nobody wishes to pull anything, I need a motion.
I'd like to pull item number 4.
Okay, we'll do that. Anybody else? If not, can we get a motion for everything excluding item 4?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Item 4?
I had a question on item 4. Are the terms of the extension with Jones, Edmonds and Associates the same terms?
They are. It's just extending it 1 year. I think it's running on the fiscal year. Or maybe it's August or September. Anyway, all the terms remain the same.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on that?
I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 4.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
I think we should have at least had representatives from Edmonds come up here and get some very valuable questions.
I'm sure you have a list.
I did have a list too, Jerry.
I just think she should.
Consultants here, do you wish to come up and add anything to item 4?
Yeah, I just think you should.
Lisa? Maybe we can just get, Lisa, come on up. Are you going to sing for us?
No, I
Okay.
don't sing. I'd scare you if I sang. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. Lisa Ray, Jones, Edmonds and Associates. And we are on
Former Oldsmar employee.
for Oldsmar, Public Works Director, and prior to that, Utilities Administrator. We're honored to continue to work with the city of Oldsmar. It's a wonderful place and wonderful group of people and
Keep going.
great staff.
Keep going.
I love it here, so. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, and good
Lisa.
to see you. That concludes our consent agenda. Not on the agenda tonight. Representative Jamie Grant is here tonight to give us a little legislative update. We were going to do it next time, but you're here. The floor is yours. Representative Grant. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I appreciate the latitude. I do a good bit of traveling for work, and so we thought I was going to be in Minnesota this week, and that is next week, so I appreciate y'all.
You're
giving
very
a bit
accommodating.
of latitude, as I'm used to here in Oldsmar. Just wanted to very briefly touch on kind of a couple of things. I know I was unfortunately on the road for work during the legislative lunch, and so I had some colleagues over here to talk, but just to touch on a couple of things that I know are coming for next session. So I know in working with the office, several of the budget requests that we have that I know Mr. Mayor, yourself and Bruce, and I'm sure some of the council members we will be getting together before we head back up to Tallahassee, starting for committee weeks here in September. Obviously, session in January. Looking back at last year, a couple of things that I focused on significantly. One, statewide impact, but also hits us here, the assignment of benefits issue. I think most people saw a whole lot of press about Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. If you added up the economic impact of the assignments of benefits and workers' comp in the state of Florida, they make EFI and Visit Florida look like a rounding error. And so, unfortunately, workers' comp and assignment of benefits are two things that we could not get the Senate to move on last year, and we will be coming back to work on again next year. But when our constituents have their property insurance rates continuing to skyrocket, look no further than the assignment of benefits issue, because it is fundamentally driving it up. Florida is leading the nation in some of the abuses there, and so how we put reforms in place to ensure that a legitimate premium-paying policyholder has recourse when they have a loss under a policy they've paid for, without the fraudulent abuse that we've seen in some scenarios that the rest of us pay for. A couple of other things that hit kind of macro in our community. Rideshare, as many of y'all are aware, has been about a 4 or 5 year fight that has been led by folks from Pinellas County and Jeff Brandis and myself. This year we finally were able to get that done. So we abolished a little agency over in Hillsborough that has had some challenges, which was nice, but we also put in place statewide regulations to ensure that our constituents both have the ability to drive free from unnecessary regulations, as well as take rides to get around our community. Worked on juvenile justice issues that hit pretty hard close to home in Pinellas. I don't think a lot of people realize it. Fortunately, here in our community in Oldsmar, it is not as big of a deal, but in Pinellas County, we actually lead the state in what are called prolific juvenile offenders, where we don't have beds to put them into a program, and the same kids. I'm sure some of y'all saw the story this last week, but just another example. And so fortunately, what we did this past year will actually close that loop. And then I spent some time on something that I thought would actually be relatively easy, a low level of effort that turned out to be something significant. But anytime you mess with lawyers and protectionism, they tend not to like it. but trying to create electronic wills in the state of Florida to be the first place that an electronic will could be executed so that our constituents could have affordable access to something to ensure that they're able to transfer their property. But that's just kind of a high-level overview. I'm not sure if you have any questions. It's always a treat to be over here following session to come and report back from what happened up there in Tallahassee, but good to be home.
I have a question, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Was the Senate your biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think anytime you have unpredictability, there's no doubt that our senator is one of the most influential and effective senators.
Really fouled things up, didn't he?
No, look, I think he is a...
He fouled things up, didn't he?
Jerry, you're trying to give me trouble. The Senate was tough because you had two very distinct camps. And it was difficult to get them moving on different things. They often couldn't work with themselves. But on our side, we're able to kind of slowly.
Y'all did well. It was them that didn't do anything.
Look, we were doing the people's work. If you look at the number of bills, the number of days, number of hours we spent on the floor, I'm proud of the work that the House did this year. It wasn't easy. It was a difficult session, but I think we'll start to see some movement in the Senate next year, where maybe a little bit more organization.
We hope so. I know Senator Latvala said that this is probably the worst session he's ever had in all the years in Tallahassee. So I have one question and then a serious question, but how well do Chris and Jack get along up there? I know they're not on the same, but do they see eye to eye on everything?
There's a difference between how well they get along and do they see eye to eye on everything. Can we shut the cameras off? No, like any father-son, I grew up with a dad that was in the process, which is why I swore I'd never run. And fortunately, he wasn't in the process when I was up there. But Chris has done a masterful job of being his own man.
He really has.
He really has done a phenomenal job of being his own man, staking out his own course. Still gets cussed out by Jack like everybody else does. But they get along very well. And it's fun to see a father-son duo that truly do love each other even when they don't agree on everything.
And they do work together on certain things. So I think that's great. My serious question is this, and I don't know if the rest of the council has any. I know where the mayor's council stands. I don't know exactly where you fall on it or where others in our area fall on home rule, but we are not a big fan of what they're trying to do for home rule in Tallahassee. I can tell you that.
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand on that issue. I grew up in a home that believed that government close to home was best.
Yep.
And I think that's true. I think we have also seen, and quite frankly, I'm going to give the example of Chris Sprouse. Chris Sprouse was a gang prosecutor in probably one of the best state attorney's offices in the state of Florida with Bernie McCabe. His normal is not normal, right? What he saw every day were gang offenders, violent offenders, monsters that needed to be locked up, and he was in an office that was equitable, that was transparent, that did things the right way. You go talk to other state attorneys or people who practiced criminal defense law that dealt with a different normal, and they would perhaps say that they would have a very different take. And my point in saying that is, for Oldsmar, Oldsmar's not normal.
I agree.
And so when we look at a city in Miami that's threatening homestead if a homeowner chooses to rent their house as a short-term vacation rental, or a $20,000 fine per occurrence, then damn right we're going to get after private property rights to protect the homeowner. And so how we find that balance, right? Because I think there are times where home rule goes beyond the fundamental rights of the constituent, and it is important for us to protect private property rights. It is important for us to protect commerce. How we do that in a minimally invasive way and make sure that we don't step on the toes of cities like an Oldsmar that are not the problem, I think is very fair. I think I would sum it up by saying it's important that we use a scalpel because if we do take a one-size-fits-all approach to preemption and those kinds of things, I think it gets tough.
I absolutely agree, and I know that there are abusers of the system, whether it's home rule or anything else, and I would rather see us fix the isolated problem than affect everybody, because I think overall, throughout the state, that is the exception and not the rule, and I think more. I would venture to say you see more than I do, but I would venture to say that more cities probably are a little more transparent than not transparent.
I think even the bill that Representative Fine ran this year, and I tried to encourage him to take the inverse, right? Because if you really look at what home rule is granted by the state constitution, right? So it is something that is given by the state to the locals.
Right.
And now you have this attitude of, well, let's go take back. Really, the only thing the House championed this year when it came to home rule as far as a global approach was to say, the state, by way of the state constitution, has granted this authority. If you have that authority, go regulate it. If you don't, leave it alone. So where somebody is a gas station owner that might be an unincorporated Pinellas, that might be an unincorporated Hillsborough across the line, that might be an Oldsmar, and has 6 different regulations about the size and location of a sign, should we presumably be trying to keep more of that money in the business owner's pocket and let them have a much more efficient
The problem becomes is when there's an issue, I mean, the reality of it is, they come to us, right? And so that's where, you know, some of the changes to home rule and the, you know, exemptions that were not exemption, preemption. That passed. You know, Representative, I think that it was really harmful. I think it was probably the worst legislative session for local government that there's been possibly ever, just to be candid. And so, you know, what we hope, and I only speak for myself, but I think that there are a lot of people in local government who feel this way, is that the pounding's not going to continue. Because the truth is, you all really don't hear about it. You know, I mean, you do, but on such a limited basis, right? Like, if there's a problem with someone's lights flashing into someone's, we hear about it. You know, we get an email, we get a phone call. Our cell phones, what's on our business cards, you know. Like you, we have jobs, right? I don't know how you manage it with the amount of time you have to spend in session, but well, I hope that you'll take that to heart when you're up there and they're making those decisions, because with over 400 cities in the state of Florida.
24 in Pinellas County.
Yeah, with 24 here alone. I'm sorry, I don't believe for a minute that there are so many abusers that the end justifies the means. It's just like way out of line, and it impacts us. You know, when it starts to tie our hands, where citizens will come to us on certain things, when we start getting these Wi-Fi structures up here that we can't, you know, manage or regulate, and I agree we need Wi-Fi throughout the state. Having said that, though, when someone puts a huge tower next to someone's home and we can't do a thing about it, and that's a problem. Yeah. I mean, that's just a real problem.
And you know, at a local level, we're not taking this out on you by any means.
Well, I am a little bit.
A little bit, but you're the messenger.
They're standing there.
Yeah, you're the messenger. I get to come home. I voted for the bill. I voted for the short-term vacation rental bill. I voted for the rideshare bill. I think the
rideshare bill makes sense. You know why? Because you drive from community to community to community. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
But regulating, and I don't, who was it, Miami Beach or North Miami?
Miami Lakes, I think, was one of them. Miami Beach was the other.
$200 fine.
20,000.
20,000. I mean, they just wanted to stop it. But we don't have that problem.
So
it's like, I don't know, you know, I don't know. To me, I thought the legislative effort was lazy. Let's just hammer the whole thing because we can't come up with a way to fix it.
So I will tell you this, at the risk of, again, asking to turn the TVs off.
No, zoom in, please.
I know, right? Make sure you catch this part.
Yeah, flag it.
I get asked a lot by people who want to run for office, should I do it? And I always tell them, I'll never tell you whether you should or you shouldn't. I'm going to tell you all of the miserable parts of it. I'm going to tell you all the realities of it. And at the end of the day, if you still want to do it for the right reasons, then go do it. What you just said is probably the greatest frustration that I have in this role, spending as much time and taking as many opportunity costs as I take, laziness. Because whether it's the short-term vacation rental bill that I think we could have gotten across the finish line despite that sponsor's best efforts, I actually criticize local government on that one because I think there is a way to strike the balance between what commerce is. Laziness and labels, blankets, are the biggest enemy of good public policy. And it's really frustrating that on our desk, and I think it's a good thing, there are 3 buttons: red for no, green for yes, and yellow does not mean maybe. It's for the pages to get coffee. So there is only an up or down vote, right? And so it is frustrating because the 5G issue is critical. Are we done with it? Probably not. Did we end up in a better place than where the bill started? Absolutely, from the local perspective. And so I like to always say it to close on this part. Every bill is kind of like a hamburger with a big shard of glass in it. If you're hungry enough, you'll eat it, and if you're concerned enough, you won't. But there is no such thing as significant legislation that comes across the desk that is just a raw, fresh cheeseburger that everybody agrees is a cheeseburger.
Very few and far between.
It's a resolution about something that doesn't matter.
I appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, I do too.
And sharing and taking our feedback, and hope that you'll continue to take it up to Tallahassee. I think you're one of the better legislators that are up there. And so but I'm still not above, little woodshed time.
No, it is laziness and labels, I think, are the true enemy of good public policy, because if we're not each individually self-aware enough and critical of ourselves enough, we're not going to have a great product. And if we can't take the criticism of what doesn't work from somebody else's perspective with their world view, with their experiences, with their expertise, it ain't going to be a great product at the end of the day. And so, unfortunately, like I said, there's votes you have to take that you look at it and you say, man, I don't really love either side of this because I know we're not done with it, but at the end of the day, private property rights are going to trump this. Or
Always should.
Well,
I would call it a different word than laziness.
looking forward to this, sir. Okay.
Say it out loud.
can we turn the mics off? There are kids in the room.
So I won't say it, but I will tell you this, that in my opinion, I could give you all a bigger headache. I would just like the city of Oldsmar to succeed from Florida.
Awesome.
Well,
Worry about you people up there.
Look, it is, I will tell you, I represent 2 cities, Oldsmar and Safety Harbor. They are not the norm.
yeah.
They are the outlier. They are exceptional.
We are the exception.
Yes, that's why I say it is challenging, because if you came and sat in my office, I would actually disagree with this part. This is not normal, right? Like, this is not the median. Oldsmar and Safety Harbor are absolutely exceptional.
With us being better.
With Oldsmar clearly.
Tonight, clearly being better tonight.
Like that tape too.
We'll see you next month, Mayor.
Would you say that one more time?
Which one am I looking at, Jerry? But my point is, Oldsmar is an exceptional place, and that's not a secret. I'm not saying anything that is surprising. I promise you, if you sat in my office for a week, I promise if you shadowed me and we had a conversation about home rule and public policy and abuses and bad actors, I think your perspective would change to some extent. Not to say that you would necessarily agree with the vote I took, but to perhaps cement in your mind how special Oldsmar is.
But the question isn't, maybe Eric was saying this, is how do we fix that part of it so that other cities aren't allowed to abuse the system or be less transparent than that, and make them be more like us than, and I remember when I was up there either last session or I think it was last year when we were there and you and I were talking, and we talked about the way you guys legislate and the way we legislate here. I mean, you made the comment of, I don't know how you do it at this local level, because, I don't care if it's something about a swing set going into the park. If it's coming before this council, we can't talk about it. That's not the case in Tallahassee.
So we got hit on this year, right? And if you're a Republican in Tallahassee and the Tampa Bay Times is not criticizing you, you're not doing anything. But we got hit on the sunshine. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I don't think y'all can be anywhere as effective as a body when 2 of you cannot talk. I don't believe that 2 people talking is indicative of malice.
Well, on that point, see, I trust these people up here. We don't have to talk. I don't trust those people in Tallahassee.
That's fair. Jerry, I get it. Look, I serve with them. You're right not to trust a lot of them. I don't disagree, but my point is, when we get to a place where local government can't efficiently transact, because again, this is exception, this is not norm. And so candidly, I don't know how you do it. And I understand the purpose, I understand the bad actors, I understand the history that led to it, and I understand how difficult it is to undo any ethical enhancement that happened in the past, right? It's difficult. But if I subscribe to the theory that if we put our hope in man, we're always going to be disappointed. If I wake up every day and think that my fellow man or woman is going to inherently look out for me and do what's best for me, I will inherently go to bed every night disappointed. And so when we put things in place that say, you two can't talk, why don't we just allow the process to play out, let the voters determine whether or not they're getting government that they want, and not get into a food fight over if two people have dinner together, they're inherently doing something inappropriate. I think it's crazy.
No, and to that point, and we don't want to keep you, I'm sure you've got
you're fine.
Other cities to go to. No, I'm just kidding. But and to that point, I think we are the exception, and we hear that quite often. I know our city attorney represents quite a few other cities in Pinellas County, and he has indicated that, and I've been to some other city council meetings, and I think you're right. I mean, there are some municipalities in Pinellas County that have colluded, let's just say, for lack of a better term, to affect the form of government that they wanted to see in their city. And so to that point, we are the exception to the rule, but I know it's happened in several cities in Pinellas County that there is no way the action that happened without dialogue behind the scenes. So.
Well, but by the way, right, I can comply with the Sunshine Law through conduits. It's not hard to legally effectuate exactly what you just described with conduits.
Yeah, we're not supposed to. We're not supposed to.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to, but that's a lot harder to.
But
It can be done, but not legally. I think you said it could be done legally. But
fair.
I'm
With
acting like a
intent,
city
it's not
attorney,
legal.
so I
Yes.
won't comment anymore.
With intent, it's not legal. Fair.
Right.
That's it,
Right?
you're out of here.
And it's
But
a lot-
accidentally, I mean,
It's a lot harder to prove, though, when you
yes,
have a
that's my
conduit.
point, right? How do you prove intent?
The whole way to solve the thing, and we can go on with this, is to punish the cities that are doing wrong and leave the other cities alone.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying, is fix
Yeah.
the, and I'm all for that, you know. And I think there's some things that can be handled better at Tallahassee level than at our level. But some of the
I'll
stuff
say
that happens
this.
here, why are we here if we're going to take all of our power away?
I will say this, to the extent that the notion came back to any place in the state, that the Florida House specifically was looking to make other government the bad actor or the example and not clean up our own house, that message didn't carry out.
Yeah.
I think what would be a fair statement would be that this leadership in the House, that this group in the House acknowledges that we first have to clean up our own house while simultaneously looking at other things. And so there was actually a lot that we did this year at the state level. There were a number of lawsuits you heard about that made where we said, look, the one domain we can impact the most is ours, so let's start there.
Right.
And so I do think that's an important thing to remember is there's a lot of folks in Tallahassee who don't like us right now, even more so than some of the bad actors in local government don't like us. But if we'll never stop fighting for truth.
Do you remember my first question?
Your very first question when I was here several years ago, I do remember, and I will never forget. I also remember your first question tonight, sir.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
So the Senate needs to clean their own damn house.
It'd be nice to have a dance partner.
Yeah. Yes, Vice Mayor?
How do you feel about the new homestead exemption that's going to be on the ballot this November? Our city's going to lose some revenue. Safety Harbor is going to lose major revenue. We're fortunate to keep our millage rate the same. Can you just give me your view of what you feel about that? That's my question.
Rip the Band-Aid off, love it. I think that we did it the right way. I think that if you look at the purpose of Homestead, if you look at what the net present value of Homestead today, if it rose at the rate of inflation from the time it was introduced, would be $67,000. So to have it at $75,000 with a gap before the final 25, actually kind of keeps up with the intent of it. Now, with that said, you asked me what I think about putting money back in the home, back in the pockets of the taxpayer. Always love it. This state has an addiction to property taxes that I'd rather us not be addicted to. I would far prefer a consumption model that gives you and I a lot more control over our taxable liability, but to the extent that we are going to be a property tax dependent state, aligning homestead with the original intention in essence to where it would be at the rate of inflation. And I know that it's going to mean some belt tightening. I know that it's going to mean some adjustment.
I don't think it's going to be as bad as people really think.
Well, I think in some places it's going to be really tough, Jerry, because I think there's, again, this is the exception. I think there's some people who are heavily leveraged at the local
Some people that
level.
already have an empty wallet can't afford it.
They've been spending money they didn't have for years. And so now they look at us and say,
Because
well,
they have bad government.
correct. You're spot on, Jerry. You and I agree. But in those places, it's going to be rough, and they're going to raise millage rates, and they're going to do things.
And to that point, you know, again, empty wallets, I'm on the PSTA board, and I was completely against maxing out the millage rate last time because there is going to be a rainy day, and here comes the rainy day. We didn't need to do it because we got more money from the state, but we did it anyway. And, you know, that was our one thing to get, you know, some millage and make it up. I think it's, I can't remember what the tune of how many millions it is.
Yeah, I would say that in most communities, because of the gap on the final 25, I think that most communities that have been fiscally governed at the local level, it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment, but it's not going to be a major issue. I think that if you go into communities that have been spending money they don't have, leveraging where they shouldn't have, they're turning around and saying, no, don't let the taxpayer keep more money. We have to fuel our spending addiction. And for those communities that keep electing the same people who keep doing
over
that.
and over and over.
Well, you know, there's a combination
So
of
kudos
thoughts
to
on
y'all,
that.
by the way, because that's the,
There's
sorry,
a
Eric.
combination of thoughts on the homestead exemption, right? And specifically on the cap as to how much it can increase your property values. It hurts the new young homeowner coming in and buying a home. He can buy a home right next to someone who's been there for a very long time, who has escaped, which is fine, that has escaped the increase in value in their property. And the young couple who just comes in and buys a place, because they haven't been there all that time, their two homes might be of equal value, but the difference that they're paying, clearly the burden, the tax burden, is being shifted to the new young couple coming in.
Homeowner in general.
Yeah, let me clarify, because I think you're touching on something I want to work on this year. The disparity between those two situations has less to do with how long somebody has been there and the value of the home. So originally it was a stacked new 25. What we heard during session was that done that way would have far too big of an impact to the local level. So we heard people screaming that if it's a straight stacked new $25,000 exemption, that it would capture a whole bunch of homes it wouldn't otherwise cap if you created that gap from 1 to 125, I think it is. So the real disparity is in the value of the homes. What I think we absolutely have to do, and something I'm filing this year, is create portability of Save Our Homes, predominantly for our senior citizens. So when you take people who might live in the water, on the water in this community, maybe they live in a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot house, it's $500,000, maybe $1 million home, and they're an empty nester, their kids are gone, they want to downsize, but they've been in that house for 25 years, they've accrued all the Save Our Homes credits, they're paying peanuts in property taxes, they want to move into a little condo, and they actually can't afford to do it because the property tax difference from losing, even if they stayed in the same community. So I think that issue, I think, Eric, is what you're describing. And so to create the portability of Save Our Homes, if somebody's moving in the same county, give them the portability, do a simple calculation and say, look, if you're paying X% of the assessed value here, you're going to pay X%.
Save Our Homes is a 3% cap, right?
But Eric,
Yeah. So
But you lose it when you move.
But you lose it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you have, well, I don't mean to go off on a long debate, we can have this conversation later, but my point was, if you take someone who's lived in the community for a long time, who's homesteaded, and they have this Save Our Homes value and the property values exceeding the 3%.
but this has been happening forever.
I know.
I mean, this happened. I mean, we've been here 51 years.
We haven't all been here.
We haven't,
51
Jerry.
years.
I don't. I mean,
Speak for yourself.
You know.
Dollars.
We paid 13,000. You know what you're talking about? I forgot what we paid. Okay, we paid $13,900 for our house on the bay with a half acre.
So imagine what it would cost you to move.
But then, see, but I couldn't afford the house when I bought it.
And there's that.
And there's that, yeah.
It was a good investment, even though.
But I guess my point is, Jerry, if the purpose of property taxes,
You're going to have young people buying new houses for the rest of our existence. It's going to happen every year, every decade. It's going to happen that way. That's just the matter of life.
And I think what Eric is saying is kind of the 180 degrees of what you're saying, you know. But I agree with what your point is if I ever want to downsize, you know, my kids are all gone, it's just me, you know.
Brand new home buyer that doesn't have something to transfer.
It doesn't have something.
even the starter home that wants to move up into something, they literally have
between
nothing
the taxpayers.
that they
is all
carry
I'm
with
saying.
them.
Well,
Which is part of what leads to the higher tax need, because it's not spread equally any.
in simple terms, it's the guy that buys the seat early on the plane pays one price, and the
But
guy
you know
that
what?
sits next to him pays 4 times that.
Right.
The reality of it is our city will be in good shape if it passes. I think it will hurt us in some areas because it's a lot of money and we provide a lot of services. And, you know, we're very fiscally conservative here. But I think we also are rewarded with seeing our property values go up as a result of that.
They're going
And
to go
so
way
that
up in the next
offsets some
5
of it,
years.
But
Yeah, and we've asked this question, and it's not really measurable yet, but if it does pass, by the time it goes into effect, home values will hopefully have gone up to offset whatever loss you have to some extent. I don't know what percentage that will be. That doesn't necessarily apply in all.
Or even
areas.
new builds. Even new builds.
Yeah, so. Anybody else have anything for him?
well, while I'm at it,
Is this 5 minutes up yet? They were all different.
thank you, Representative.
Great job.
Y'all, thank
Thank
y'all
you,
for having
really,
me.
thank you for
Appreciate the
coming. We
schedule
appreciate
flexibility.
it. It was a good dialogue.
Look forward to seeing y'all again soon. We start going back in September. So I've introduced Trent. Obviously, most of y'all know him, but Trent, my legislative aide's here with me tonight. If there's anything that comes up, obviously, you know how to get me, but get our office.
No, we want to talk to you.
I know. I'm just telling you, Jerry. I know you know how to find me, Jerry.
I know
but,
how to find you.
Yes. The anklet is working tonight. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Thanks, Representative. All right. Next is Representative, no. We'll never get to Orlando. We'll never get to Orlando. City of Oldsmar, we have a couple of items. The first is the presentation of the Council Manager Award, and that is Councilmember Beaverland. You've got 5 minutes. Yeah, right. Apologize but that was something that needed to be talked about. We don't get to speak to him often, so
Yeah.
hopefully it was good. Hopefully it was informative for you as well.
I want you to, first of all, I want you to look at how much taller he is than I am. I've known this guy when he was this big. I know you don't smile all the time, does he?
Yes, he does.
He does.
It does.
Comedians and he's smiling. I know.
I love both of these people. In fact, if you knew their history, they could be your heroes. You worked for the city of Oldsmar for 29 years? And I can guarantee you, he worked for the city of Oldsmar 29 years.
I mean, it looks like he's 35.
So I've known you almost all your life.
Yeah.
This is the epitome, not only of a person that you want as your employee. We got a number of them. There's one sitting right over there. But this is the epitome of a family that you can be extremely proud of. And I'm glad I have known you all these years. You're very special to me.
Thank you.
And I take pride in this, and a lot of you aren't going to recognize this until I mention it. You want to help me? They came back to haunt me. We call that the band shell, or what do we call this?
Amphitheater.
The amphitheater. The amphitheater is the Elizabeth J. Smith Amphitheater, his mama. And I take great pride that I had a great part in naming this amphitheater. Now, Elizabeth was a strange lady.
He's standing right next to you.
You know her well.
But he knew how to she knew how to raise a son. She would come to me and say, I ain't voting for you. No, she wouldn't say the word ain't. See, I say ain't a lot because I love that word ain't. It's special to me. But she would say, I'm not voting for you this year. And she didn't smile, and she meant it. She said, you do better. And in the next election, we can talk. And then she'd come up and say to me at the next election, I am going to vote for you this year. And she still didn't smile. She was special most of the time. I want to read a couple of things so I don't mess it up. I'm proud to know you as an employee because you're the epitome of what a city employee should be, and we got a lot of them. We have many of them. Now, something I didn't know, that I have a hard time saying some words. You're a
Horticulturalist.
That's what he is.
Raid.
And he's a certified arborist. He maintains a pesticide license. And this is the one I really love, gang. He's certified to trim the mangroves.
Yeah.
Put that in for you.
As a family, you're heroes. And I admire that in both of y'all. They're foster parents. They have fostered over 50 kids over these years, and I know the family. And when I say they're foster parents, that's exactly what they are. Not foster, but they're parents. Not only have they fostered so many young people, it's got it down here that they're proud parents of a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 14-year-old.
Sometimes.
That they adopted. Jody. You're taller than I am. Go ahead.
I have this one somewhere.
You want that one?
Sure.
I have always admired you as an employee. I've always admired you the way you rear your family and
Microphone.
and how you handle yourself with them. And it's my pleasure to give you the Council Manager Award, a recognition to Brian and Jody Smith. Thank you for who you are. deserve every bit of it. Now, which one of y'all want to continue to get me from boring everybody and say something?
So, well, I want to thank you too. Thank you all the way back from where you named the amphitheater after my mom. That was so special that when you stood up in church and said, "I'm going to name the amphitheater after your mom," and I said, that would just, it was an emotional time, but that was even more emotional knowing that you were going to do that. And that was there. Thank you so much for that. I get to drive by and see her every day now that she's all new and everything too. But yes, I still enjoy and love working for the city of Oldsmar, and I enjoy my work and trying to keep the city as pretty as possible. It's a lot of work, and it takes, sometimes we fail, but we try our best. So thank you again, and from my wife too, so.
Interesting fact. Brian said that he was the first Parks employee ever. So there was one guy in the department. I just think that's hilarious. And, you know, he was a country boy because he was born and raised here. And I was from the suburbs of Detroit, where people locked their car doors and their homes and everything. And he never heard of such a thing. Also, I just got a kick out of this story, and I always tell it. One time he told me, and I think it was on, what's that road, the school's on St. Pete Drive. There used to be just a little produce stand, and nobody was there. It was the honor system. You just took your corn and you put some money in. That's how it was. Can you believe this? That's not how it was in the city. And I just want to say how much I loved my mother-in-law and what a great, great person she was. She did so much for the city, so much for the church, so much for her boys, and we were just really sad to see her go and wish she could have seen, you know, everything that we're doing now. But I'm very proud of my husband, and I'm just amazed. 29 years, you know, you don't hear that every day.
No.
So good job, honey.
Thank you.
Photo op.
Get back up here. Her mom always used to count the pencils in the church, and if one was missing, you better not be the one that took it.
I got those pencils with Elizabeth Smith on them in church, so.
They're gonna have.
Photo bombs out of the way?
Yeah, I gotta frame it.
Congratulations. And that's great about adopting the 3 kids. That's awesome. And fostering 50. Oh, OMG. Next is the presentation on Pinellas Job Corp Center, and I believe we have a couple representatives here. Welcome. Make sure you go back and tell them how great Oldsmar is.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much. My name is Marty Chitterer, and I'm with Pinellas County Job Corps. We would like to thank you all for inviting us down here to talk a little bit about Job Corps. I brought one of our admissions counselors, Shalonda Samuels, who will tell you a little bit about Job Corps, and then I'll follow up with some possible partnership opportunities.
And if you don't mind, I asked for this to be on the agenda because I went down and visited the Job Corps, 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And so impressive of a program, and I think that there may be some opportunity at some point, either through the city or the chamber or something, to really help some kids, which I think is very important. So it was an amazing tour, and some great possibilities, not only for the kids, but for the businesses. So
absolutely. And again, I would extend an invitation to all of you. I'd love to have you come down, meet our center director, take a tour of our campus. It's very exciting, and we will look forward to hopefully working with you guys in the future. But I'll turn it over to Shalonda here and get things started here.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Again, my name is Shalonda Samuels, and I am an admissions counselor for the Job Corps program. I am new to the area, but I'm not new to Job Corps. Actually did a little bit of Job Corps in Kentucky about 10 years ago, so it's been 10 years since I've been back, but I am glad to be here, and I think this is an awesome program for our youth in this community and of course across the world. And I think for Job Corps, it's a second chance program. You know, with all the challenges that our youth face today, some just get off track a little bit and just need a little bit of nudging and helping and coaching to get them right back on the track. So I think Job Corps is that. Job Corps has been around since I think the early 60s. And so it is an educational and training program for youth ages 16 to 24. Basically, youth can actually come to the Pinellas County Job Corps Center, and it's a residential setting. They actually live on campus. The average time for one student to complete the program is 8 to 12 months. And so they can come and get their high school diploma or their GED and also a trade. And at the Pinellas County Job Corps Center, we have what we call clusters. We have a medical cluster of trades. We also have a construction cluster of trades. So with construction, they can come in and get facilities maintenance, they can get electrical, they can get plumbing, and they can get one more. I'm taking a quiz here. Electrical, thank you. And carpentry, thank you. And then also with the medical trades, they can get certified nursing assistant, they can get medical assistant, medical billing and coding, and pharmacy tech. So basically, they come on center, they stay for up to 2 years they actually have to complete the program. So if they complete their education and their trade, and they still have some time left, they can also do another trade, and then they can also go on to do advanced training programs in other states. So it'll be at the next level of their training. So for example, we don't have it in this particular city, but if they want to do computer tech, then they can go actually to another Job Corps center out of the state and do like Microsoft training and certification. In order to be eligible for Job Corps, you have to first be considered low income. You have to have a barrier to education and employment. First, you have to be considered like a dropout, or you just didn't complete school for whatever reasons. You also have to be willing to improve your skills, become more employable. And also to be eligible, you have to be drug-free. We do a drug test when they come into the program. We also run a criminal background check. You have to be free from any kind of criminal or violent crimes. Now, if they have that on their record, we do look at it on an individual basis. We have to assure that it's not something that's going to affect the safety or jeopardize the safety of themselves, other students, and staff at the center. So if they have some things on the background, they have to be free from any kind of court obligation. So if they have any upcoming court dates, fines, fees, or if they're on probation or parole, then all of that has to be clear and satisfied before they can actually get into the program. The process, usually they actually have to come to the center and do a 1-hour orientation. They leave with just a brief packet of information. After that, if they're interested in the program, they come back for a one-on-one interview and also an application process, which takes also about an hour. And it usually takes about 30 days or so to get into the program. We have about 300 students on center. So basically, it's an all year-round program, self-paced program. So students are entering and exiting the program all year round. So that's about it.
Awesome, thank you. And I guess the question is, and without getting in the weeds about it,
right.
How does the partnership work, whether it's with the municipality or the chamber or one of the businesses?
Right, and that's kind of what I do. I actually hold 2 positions with Job Corps. I am the work-based learning coordinator. And so what I'll do is try and get students out onto an experience day-by-day kind of thing. It's an internship kind of feel to it, where they can see what a typical day looks like in construction or in manufacturing. And I know that we had talked about your manufacturing area over here, where that would be prime for our students. And there'd be an opportunity for them to be exposed to what a typical day looks like, the kinds of skills they're going to need, and possibly opportunities to be hired off the internship. The second position I hold is the business community liaison, which is why I'm here in the first place. So we are always trying to put an appearance in in the community. The students also look for community service opportunities, so any kind of volunteer work, any of those kinds of things. I've talked to Mayor Beavis in detail, and his story is very interesting and I think compelling for a student to hear, that sometimes a career chooses you instead of you choosing a career, and how different paths and being open to opportunities is the biggest thing. Our students tend to get a little compartmentalized with their opportunities. Well, I only want to do this, when if you are open to all sorts of things, you may have opportunities to move forward. So as far as the partnership goes, like I said, there are several projects that we could work with. You guys have leisure services. That might be something we could explore. I know you have events going on. I subscribe to your Facebook pages, so I see that a lot of events are going on, and we'd love to be part of that. Another opportunity might be with the city council and the mayor and vice mayor. I could bring maybe 2-3 students for you to talk to and kind of talk about your experience. It wouldn't be anything set in stone or anything like that. It would be as time was available for you guys, and maybe a half an hour or 45 minutes to discuss how you got to where you are, and the importance of things like customer service, and like I said, being open to opportunities, and how you were able to find your way to where you are now. That's a great lesson for our students to learn. It's one of those things that they're sort of missing when they come to us. So to be able to get up and speak and be positive about themselves through the interview process, I mean, we've all been through interviews. Any of that kind of information will be very beneficial to the students. So.
And we talked about this, and I know Goodwill came and talked to us, and that was a little bit, although it's a great program, it was a little bit, I know I've talked to Bruce, that was a little bit overwhelming for us to undertake, because they were looking at 8 to 12 students, and this is kind of and we needed to provide a classroom for them to get some education and things like that. And I know we had dialogue when I came to your campus about, these kids want to be there. They want the chance to have a second chance and move on. And I think it's a great opportunity, whether it's with the city or the Chamber of Commerce. Jerry was here. I don't think he's here anymore, but Jerry Custon would be, or Jerry Peruzzi would be. Right. Jerry actually would be the manufacturing connection that might be able to help that. And as I recall, liability, of course, that's always a concern of us, but that's something that you guys take care of.
We absolutely pick up on that. So
and getting them here and getting them back is.
We provide transportation and all of that. We provide them lunch, the whole 9 yards. We'll take care of it. If something were to happen, all you'd have to do is give me a call. I would come remove the student, and we would fix the problem right away. And again, we don't have to be as structured as Goodwill. I appreciate what they were trying to do. I think we could be a lot more flexible with the kinds of things that we could do. And like I said, we wouldn't have to lock in. I wouldn't put you into, I know that we had talked about, 8 here, 8 here, 8 here, 8 there. We could do 1, 2 to have them get the experience. We have a student government. It would be great for them to see how the process works. They go to the city council meetings in St. Petersburg, but every council is different. This would be a great opportunity for them to see that, okay, that's one way to do it, but I'm not going to live in a big city. I'm going to live in something a little bit further.
Where they do things right.
And not at 1 PM. Whenever their meetings are.
So there's a lot of that kind of thing that they would benefit from this kind of environment. So that's kind of why I'm here. I see the possibilities of being able to do this. Our conversation has encouraged that. By the way, the mayor and I met through attending the Pinellas County Citizens Academy.
University,
the university. So we had a chance to, that was another great opportunity to go around the county and see how everything works and what opportunities our students would have going forward with that. So,
and this, correct me if I'm wrong, but no expense to us. It's or the manufacturer if it's in the private industry. This is a federally funded program, and I think it's great. And we had some dialogue about what you offer here in Pinellas County, and I guess maybe if you could just a little bit, because I found it kind of interesting that the Pinellas County campus and model really is a little bit different, I guess, than maybe some of the other models throughout the state or the country, in that they're grabbing kids from all over maybe the state or different counties, and then they come and get their education, but then they go back to their respective county or city or wherever they came from. But your focus is more about having kids that are from around here get their education and their experience, but then hopefully stay here as well and be a contributor to the community. Is that
Absolutely,
fairly correct?
and that's part of the thing. That was part of the stigma when Job Corps got started. There are 125 Job Corps across North America or the United States. There are, I believe, 3 or 4 in Florida themselves. There's one in Gainesville. There's one with us, Homestead, and Jacksonville. So. As my colleague said earlier, if they were interested in culinary, that's not something we necessarily offer, so they may go to our Gainesville campus and be able to do that. And as far as the advanced training goes, from medical assistant to RN, they may go to another site to be able to get all of those kinds of things. So there's opportunities to do that. Our focus has been, in the past few years, is to focus on the local people who are available. And so we'll have kids from Orlando and other places, but a lot of St. Pete, Tampa kind of thing as well, and that's where we've been doing our recruiting. So it's a little bit of different. It's, get the kids that are available now around here and then build from off of that. So.
Okay. And I know it got kind of late with the representative here, but I am willing personally able to commit to, talking to your kids. I can't speak for the rest of the council, but if time permits, I'm sure they would be more than willing to,
Yes,
to do
Absolutely.
that.
I'll be happy to stay around afterwards and we can talk. We can exchange contact information and talk further about what you would like to do and the expectations, absolutely.
And then from the manufacturing side, it would be Jerry Custon. He had to leave, but either if you don't have his contact, I can get you that information. And I don't know where we go from the city. We can have some dialogue, beyond this meeting and see what we might be able to do and at least maybe push it a little more forward and see if it's something that we could do and help, some kids out. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I think that's what they're missing sometimes.
Right, and that's, like I said, that's the best thing. This is one of the things I said to you is they hear us every day, so it's easy for them to kind of drown us out. But if we stand next to each other and say the same thing, they'll hear you because you're a new face and you've got some credibility where, oh, I've heard that 1,000 times. So, that's the impact that we can make right away is, hey, this is how I got here. So, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get together with all of you and just see where you guys are at with this and see what we can do.
Something that we can look into from our perspective. I can put him in touch with Jerry or I don't know who.
Well, I think that would be a good effort also, but you provided us with some.
Yes, you all have packets of kind of the information.
Contact you, so.
Yes, Marty is, absolutely.
I just have a quick question. How do you normally recruit or, find kids that want to be in your program?
Wherever we can find them, we recruit through high school, we recruit through some of the social services kinds of things.
Teacher sponsor or nominate them, or is it kids?
Not necessarily. It's more of an interest kind of thing. Some of our students will be perhaps homeless, have some impossible issues at home and things like that, so those are good candidates to do that.
What if somebody like us, I don't know if that's where you're going with this, but if somebody like us or,
I was just curious, I can't imagine that it's really like a bunch of 17-year-olds coming to you and saying, I want to work. So I was just curious, how do you actually get students in the program, especially because you require them to live there? There's no off-site living or they...
We do have some that do live off-site and then come every day.
Okay.
So it's the exception rather than the rule. Most of them are glad to be there with the roof over their head. We give them 3 squares a day, transportation, things like that. We also help them get their driver's license. And a lot of our focus as they get closer to the end is how to get an apartment, how to buy a car, all those life skills that they may not be used to doing yet.
In addition to that, just to add to what Marty's already said, a lot of the school system teachers refer, the guidance counselors, they refer the students for students that are not functioning well in a traditional school setting. Sometimes folks need a smaller classroom with more one-on-one coaching and helping in that way. So we get a lot of referrals from school systems as well.
And I think you indicated, I don't remember how I actually asked the question, but you have a fairly good retention. Obviously, not all kids are made for all environments, but you have a pretty good retention at your campus too, which is good.
And like I said, that's the ability to do that. A lot of it is hands-on. We actually, our construction areas actually have construction kinds of classrooms. We have a small classroom for the education part, and then it's hands-on. And so they'll go through the steps. They built buildings in the back and taken them down and built them up. And, you know, the electrical have gone around and changed all of the hand towel kinds of things to the electrical kind of drying kind of thing. And so there's opportunities to do all
Real
of that.
applications within the campus,
Absolutely.
you know, and when I was there, they were framing out, you know, closets and rooms and, you know, putting the electrical in. So, I mean, I think it's something that is definitely missing it for some kids today. So,
And for your own education, it's very interesting to see how things like the construction trades and the medical trades work.
well, and if we as a municipality can't help and give back, you know, we're kind of missing the boat on that. It's my opinion. So.
What's your max capacity and what are you at right now?
We are at 277, which is our maximum right now.
So you're already at.
Right. and
But they
that's-
rotate, as you were indicating, they kind of rotate in and out
And
based on when
so
they start.
6 may go out this week and we bring another 6 in. So it kind of bounces depending on what's going on. So.
Great.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Thanks. We'll
Great
we'll
job.
definitely
Thank
be
you.
in touch.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the presentation by Tampa Bay Estuary. Maya, is that right? We are getting presented all over the place tonight.
Yeah.
Everything to politics,
This
to
is the
jobs,
most
to
engaging
estuaries.
council meeting I think I've witnessed in a long time.
Say that again for the record.
Maya Burke, Tampa Bay Estuary Program, and I am very impressed with all of the citizens that are here tonight and the level of engagement that your body has had. It's really been great to watch. So thank you to Bruce for the invitation to come and update you all on what we've been doing in the old Tampa Bay portion of Tampa Bay. As I said, my name is Maya Burke. I'm the Technical Projects Coordinator. So I work on a lot of our Restore Act projects, and as well, I coordinate a grant program called the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund. So these are some opportunities that I'll tell you a little bit about today, but I wanted to just go over some of our most recent accomplishments in Old Tampa Bay. So for those of you who don't know, Tampa Bay is a large watershed. It's a 400 square mile body. It's the largest open water estuary in the state of Florida. And our watershed spans all the way to Polk County down to Sarasota County and into Pasco County. So you guys are right here at the top of the bay in the heart of everything, and you really get to reap the benefits of all the hard work that's gone on throughout the watershed and elsewhere. So I hope you enjoy this important resource both economically and recreationally. You're situated in a great spot. The Tampa Bay Estuary Program is one of 28 place-based partnerships throughout the country, and we are basically a coordination of federal, state, and local governments that are working to protect and restore Tampa Bay. Our main guiding document is called Charting the Course. It's our comprehensive conservation and management plan, and we've been spending the past 2.5 years working to update this document. It's something that will be released online as an e-zine through Adobe, and so it should be really accessible. It has a lot of great visual aids, and it can show you what some of our priority actions are to help continue the improvement of Tampa Bay. This huge undertaking has incorporated input from all sorts of technical experts, folks from city representatives and regular citizens that are interested in protecting and restoring Tampa Bay, and we're really excited to be rolling it out. There are several key areas that our CCMP focuses on, and I want to talk to you about a few of those that are relevant for Old Tampa Bay. Our marquee goal is really water and sediment quality. That's really what's driven the restoration of seagrass habitat in Tampa Bay. Some folks think that we've planted it sprig by sprig, but in fact what we've done is more of a if you build it, they will come. If you create the conditions for water quality that seagrass can thrive in, the seagrass will come back and recruit naturally. And that's really how we've seen the majority of this increase back to 1950s levels here in Tampa Bay. So hopefully you all have seen the great news stories We've worked really hard with our nitrogen management consortium to reduce nitrogen pollution to Tampa Bay. On this graphic, you can see how water quality has trended in Tampa Bay over the years. There are some key intervening moments that change those colors from red to yellow to green. Things like the passage of the Grizzle-Fig Act, which requires advanced wastewater treatment or reclaimed water 100% reuse within the watershed. Also things like stormwater permitting that improves those non-point sources of nitrogen loading to the bay. These kinds of actions where we've all worked together have resulted in improved water quality all over, and we're seeing now that our seagrass is really, our water is as clear as it was in 1950, and we've reached our seagrass goal of 38,000 acres. In fact, over the past several years, we've exceeded that goal and are now more than 40,000 acres of seagrass. This map shows you what those gains look like here specifically in Old Tampa Bay. Some of the biggest gains are really over by the St. Pete Clearwater Airport, an area that we call the Hump. A lot of scientists were very skeptical that seagrass would ever really recruit. It's very ephemeral seagrass that comes and goes, but that's been persistent now for the past couple of aerial viewings, and we've ground truthed it. So it's very exciting to see this seagrass coming back here in Tampa Bay. We also do a lot of scientific monitoring of tidal creeks. This map shows you all those little blue lines are really small tidal creeks that have an effect on the water quality and are really important for fisheries here in the bay. So we monitor a variety of these creeks and we rotate through which ones we're measuring. Currently, we're measuring water quality parameters at Sweetwater Creek and Mullet Creek in Safety Harbor. One of the big projects we just wrapped up was a pilot study that we did in conjunction with the Southwest Florida Water Management District. As you're driving over to Tampa, you might notice there is a water control structure on Channel A and Channel G. We've worked to raise that water control structure so that the gates are open at all times. So that allows the saltier estuarine waters to go further upstream in the tidal creeks. And this monitoring is showing great things are happening already. We're seeing mangroves recruiting further upstream. That picture right there is of a juvenile snook, so if you're a snook fisherman or you enjoy that, this is providing some really great habitat to help these baby fish survive and become an important part of our overall bay system. Homeowners are really enjoying seeing manatees come up there, so it's been a really successful pilot project and important tidal creek work that we've done here in this portion of the bay. You all might notice this segment of the bay has had persistent algae blooms around this time. There's a bloom right now. It's an algae called Pyridinium bahamens, and so we've been doing some work through the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund and others in cooperation with Florida Fish and Wildlife to understand what's causing these blooms to persist over time. So we just wrapped up a study that looks at the seeding potential of this algae. It basically produced cysts, which are like seeds. And so we wanted to understand the factors that allow these seeds to bloom and to persist over time. So we've learned some important information in terms of how far in the sediment these cysts are viable and what the different temperature conditions are that allow for it to thrive. And we're hoping to build on this work. We have a project, an upcoming project, to look at ways we can use some potential biological controls using oysters that are suspended in the water column in this part of the bay to help improve water quality for this persistent problem that we do experience in this bay segment. So keep an eye out for that. We've also revisited what we call our dredged hole study. About 10 years ago, we looked at a handful of dredged holes that were left in the bay after they created some finger canals for some development. And we looked at a variety of different factors. We want to understand the water quality conditions for temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen. We also want to know the volume of these holes. But really what's interesting is we're looking to see if these holes are being used by important species, if they're good fishing holes. We don't want to make fishermen angry, or if they're just useful for the different animals that live in Tampa Bay. We don't want to harm those animals. And the idea is that if conditions are not high quality, we could potentially recommend those dredge holes be filled as a beneficial use of dredge materials. So when there's spoil that's created from maintenance dredging from a channel or something like that, we could fill those and restore good conditions to the dredge hole. But if the dredged hole is already good, then we'll leave it be. So we're visiting another handful of these sites, about 10, and this is pictures from the dredged hole that's in Upper Tampa Bay, kind of south of Upper Tampa Bay Park and north of the boat ramp on the Courtney Campbell Causeway. And you'll see we found some really cool stuff. Rays, stingrays, seahorses, and then that one in the middle is my favorite. That's a diamondback terrapin. It's a really rare and beautiful turtle. So we're finding really cool things in your part of the bay that you might not even know are there. Then a big project that we just finished, and I'm hoping that you all have had the chance to visit, is the Downtown Waterfront Park Restoration Project at Safety Harbor. This was done with funds from the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund, as well as some of our Give a Day and our Bay mini grants went towards the citizen involvement component of this project. But essentially, we didn't help pay for the recreational components for those beautiful boardwalks that are out there, but we helped to remove about 6 acres of Brazilian pepper on the waterfront and installed a lot of marsh plants, spartina, mangroves, a whole host of native plants. And if you haven't been out there, I really encourage you to. It's beautiful. Even since that picture in June, the grasses are growing, they're seeding naturally. If you want to see spoonbills or reddish egrets, I don't think I've been out there and not seen one, so it's great for birding as well. And the thing I wanted to highlight about this is that the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund is eligible for all local governments to apply. So if you have a project that you think would have an environmental component that furthers the mission of the CCMP, our Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan, I'd urge you to apply. We would love to do some habitat restoration in this part of the bay. I know we have a project coming up in Mobley with Pinellas County and the Water Management District, but if there's an opportunity to work with the city, we would like to do that as well. And then, you see that tarpon tag down there. That's a license plate, a specialty license plate that anyone here can buy. And all that money goes back to this community and is spent to improve water quality and public engagement here in Tampa Bay. So if you are so inclined to buy a specialty license plate, this is a great one that stays in the community and it does great things. And then finally, I'll give a plug. Our latest social media campaign is called #LoveTampaBay. And this is a social sharing campaign. So if you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook or Twitter, tag us and share your photos of things that make Tampa Bay special to you, whether it's jobs, science, community. But it's a great way to share the thing that we all have in common and the thing we love, which is Tampa Bay. So that's what I had for you all, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Al. I have 2 questions, but I'll defer to my fellow council members if you have any first.
Well, I did have a question. Can you talk about the impact of Tarpon Lake when they open up the dam?
Of Lake Tarpon.
Yeah.
It increases freshwater flow, and also there's, I think, if you're asking about sort of the sediment that comes down as well. Yeah. So we did the muck assessment in conjunction with the Water Management District. So there are nutrients that are associated with that, and it definitely is not the natural hydrology of the area, but there is some beneficial benthic communities that are still persisting here in this area, and it serves an important flood control purpose. So I believe, I'm not sure that anything has been revisited more recently.
Well, I know we were part of co-funding with Safety Harbor a study, and I think it was with you all.
Yes.
And that was a long time ago, but it was talking about the constant growth of sediment out there. And
that was the muck study
Yeah.
Myra was referring to, I believe.
Is that the official term? Muck study?
Yeah, it in fact is, yeah.
Is it really?
It really is.
Okay, I like that. Well, there's a lot of muck out there to study.
And if I can, if you have another question, I'd like to just piggyback because that's part of my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And for my engineering nerds, friends that are in the audience, that we all used to work together. We did hydraulics together years and years ago. But Holly Greening used to be the one that presented that we all worked with back
I don't
in
know
the,
how she wiggled out of this one.
back in the day. But Councilmember Seidel's point, that study, which was probably, Bruce was telling me, was 10 or 12 years ago that we started this process. And while I think all the things that are happening with this, the growth of all the areas around the banks, I think our concern is, what's the next step, or one of our concerns.
Yeah, what can be
mine's a two-part question, I guess, and if you don't mind. What's the next step with the muck? I know it's I think it really affects the quality up there of the sea life and the plant life and everything else, because we went through this whole process with this study and we got the report and they said, okay, it's a combination of sediment and muck, dead organic material and things like that. It's like, okay, now what? I guess, is there a next step? I know it's a huge undertaking with the Army Corps of Engineers and funding and all of that, but is there a next step that is in this process?
So this study did predate my time at the estuary program, but it's my understanding that there was some beneficial life that is in that muck.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure that, it seems like maybe what you're talking about is a dredging kind of project. So I don't know that that's necessarily the answer, but what we have been working on is ways to improve circulation to kind of address the flushing issues that are associated with that. So we have worked with the Water Management District to complete the Old Tampa Bay circulation model. Again, this is not my project, so I am not the most expert on this topic, but we've been able to look at what some of the biggest sort of bang for the buck projects might be. And so we've been coordinating with Florida Department of Transportation and evaluating a couple of projects to basically put large flowways through the Courtney Campbell Causeway. One of the ones that's under consideration right now is on the east side of the Courtney Campbell Causeway. Again, just past that boat ramp area, and the idea is that would be done as water quality mitigation associated, originally it was proposed as being associated with the Tampa Bay, the TBX project, but they're still pursuing that project as well. So that would be one of the primary things we can look at doing, is how do we open up these causeways?
Right, and to your point, and I think you provided a very valuable piece in your earlier presentation, which clearly this is the first time you've given it, because you you know exactly what you're talking about. But to the muck point, I think maybe you did provide us somewhat of an answer, is that there is some quality of life in there, whether I think you call it floating oysters and different things that are actually in that. So it's not all bad.
Yeah, listen, talk to the people who've been here a lot longer than me, and the quality of the bay prior to them, Courtney Campbell. It's exciting to hear that there actually might be some prospect to put some type of flow mechanism under there, because if I recall correctly, that study, the conclusion to it was that one of the main conclusions was the lack of flow is what changed the dynamics of that bay forever. And so even if you were to have some kind of muck cleanup, it wouldn't matter.
It would continue to accumulate. Yeah, so there is also a project that's been proposed for funding through the Restore Act, and it's in the Deepwater Horizon portal that the state manages, to do similar kinds of work on the Howard Franklin Bridge when they reconstruct that. It's a very costly project, more than $20 million, but this would be a great kind of thing for you all to consider advocating for. These kinds of projects need champions, and the trend with the Restore Act funds from the other pots, not the direct pots that you have direct control over. Sure. Right now, the trend has been sort of dink and dunk, smaller projects at a time. So this goes against the trend of what they have been supporting, but it would provide, measurable benefits here for this portion of the bay, which has lagged behind other bay segments.
Well, and I think you were here when Representative Grant was here. We have a good reputation with him and other legislators up there, so we certainly aren't opposed to bending their ear. Right. If I could, my other question was exactly what you were asking about the ebb and flow underneath, whether it's the Howard Franklin or the Courtney Campbell, mostly the Courtney Campbell. Right. I was at a North County Mayor-Manager meeting, and I know that the city of Clearwater just purchased the college at the end of the west end of the Courtney Campbell Causeway, which Swift Mud was waiting for to then, apparently they're super excited. Swift Mud is about the Cooper's Point project and how that could just dramatically change the life in the upper Tampa Bay. Is that anything that's part of what you're doing, or do you know anything about that? And it's similar to, I think, what you said down at the other end, to provide some more ebb and flow under there.
I guess I would caution of the scale of the impact of that project. I think it's an exciting project, but on the overall scale of Old Tampa Bay, I don't know that this improving the circulation issues there will have as big of an effect as something like opening up some of the causeways elsewhere. The Tampa Bay Estuary Program has been awarded Restore Council funds around just shy of $2 million to do projects, and we've split that equally amongst our partners. The City of Clearwater's project, their component of it was to do some of that preliminary work out at Cooper's Point. That project element has lagged behind all of our other components because of the master planning process that they're undertaking now. But it's something that we're working through. That it's a very onerous process working through the Restore Council. But we're looking at how we can help the City of Clearwater improve some of the circulation. Right now, it looks like the biggest improvement would be through cleaning out some of the existing culverts that go under Damascus Road, and basically you can help a lot of the mangrove communities that are on the west side of that road, and then provide that additional flushing out into Old Tampa Bay proper.
Can I get in this, Mayor?
Yeah.
Well, somebody that has lived on this part of the bay for going on 52 years, I've seen everything that's happened, so I'm not an expert on anything, but I can tell you some things that some of the studies have not shown to be true. Anybody know when Courtney Campbell was built? Anybody have any idea?
1933.
1935.
Let's do some research on that.
Yeah. Can somebody check PolitiFact, please?
Do that.
I know you did.
So he wouldn't.
I think it was started in 33 and finished in 35.
It was.
No, you didn't say when it was finished, when it was built. We'll give you both credit.
That's fine.
Please proceed.
Please proceed.
I'll share the credit.
You have a question, or?
It was a private causeway. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And after World War II.
You're both wrong. It started in 1927, opened 1934.
You know, I was looking.
Well, 34 and 35.
Off a year.
So they hit right in the middle.
What's the difference?
We were right.
Know the truth.
When it was finished, we were right.
Right in between you. Go ahead.
And the flow of the Tampa Bay was fine. We had no problems. The problem started with the outfall canal. I was mayor at the time, and we had a big meeting.
Back in 1927?
Yeah.
Is that 33?
And with the Corps of Engineers and all of these people that know everything from Tallahassee. And after our big meeting, the Corps of Engineers had never said a thing through the whole meeting. And at the end of it, he says, Mayor Bieberlin's right. When we designed the outfall canal, we screwed it up. They put no filters, they did nothing with it. And I disagree. I don't know, because I'm not an expert, but see, sludge and mud to me is ridiculous. And I seen in one of your
Slides.
yeah, whatever, that there's a big yellow circle right at the mouth of the outfall canal. Why that's there is because of the outfall canal. We used to have acres of oysters out here. Acres of oysters. They're probably this far under sludge now.
Yeah.
The city, the Wilson Grizzle bill, by the way, that was passed about putting poop in the bay and all the waterways, and the city of Oldsmar built the first AWT plant in America, and we dedicated it in 1974. I was president of the Northeast Sewer and Water Management Authority. We were the first city that quit putting poop out here in the bay. Hillsborough County that kept putting the poop out here in the bay. But we took action. A city of 1,000 people built a $5.5 million plant out here that you can actually go out there and drink the water. I mean, you can, but I won't. Clearer than the water you drink.
Where's Jeff when you need him?
Now, seagrass around the city of Oldsmar vanished. Vanished. It is now coming back down at the end of the Oldsmar down here around the curve by the city of Oldsmar, thanks to, I guess it was you that did it. We planted seagrass, did we not?
We have.
We have planted seagrass around this part of the bay. Now, I want to ask you a question.
I knew something was coming.
I didn't take as long as you did. Now, leave me alone.
I had questions. Go ahead. In the interest of time.
We want to help clean up this part of the bay. Is there any way we can, in fact, we'll give it to you. Can we dredge our channels out here, and then you take the dredge and fill in your holes wherever you want them? Can you help us dredge our channels? Do you have any idea who we talk to dredge our channels?
I have already spoken to Pinellas County. I'm in the process of trying to work some of that out.
Yeah, we have no regulatory authority, so we can't help with the dredging part,
But you have the holes out there.
But yes, we facilitate a dredge materials working group, and we can identify places where it would be a good idea to place beneficial sediment if it's high quality sediment that would improve conditions in that portion of the bay.
Well, there's two. Courtney Campbell is not the mean guy here. It is part of the problem, but it's not the main part of the problem because it's sat out there for 30, 40 years and we still had a good flush. Now, we would like to have a better flush, but it's that alcohol canal.
Well, you have more nutrient loading now, for sure. For sure.
We do. Yeah, we do.
That's development, you know what I mean, and
for
everything
sure.
else, so.
That's all.
No, that's all.
Thank you.
I'd just like to let you know, we rent him out, if you would like to take him with you to any of your meetings that you have. You can do it hourly or by the week, or if you'd like him for the whole year, Willis.
He would like to get rid of me for a year.
I think that's up to the people.
The mayor would like to run him for a term.
Yes. If I could have a motion, please. No. Anything else?
No.
No?
He said it all for me.
Thank you so much for the update. I do have a question, I guess, to his point, as weird as this is that I'm piggybacking on him.
Which point, the poop point?
No, not the poop point, but we'd be glad to help. If there's people that you can let us know who, the hot buttons who we can talk to, or, you know, that to help facilitate some of this stuff, you know, be a thorn in somebody's side, we'd be glad to do that.
Well, to that same point, anything that we can do to like engage more cleanup in this part of the bay, you know, and maybe it's a call to you, you know, follow up and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, we just need to know who to talk to or how to do it or what to do.
Absolutely. My contact information is there on the slide, but the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund is a really great way for cities to do projects that they maybe otherwise wouldn't have a funding source in their budget. So we can, you know, double your money, or if you can use in-kind labor. You know, I know Felicia's got a lot of willing volunteers that can provide in-kind for some of these projects. So I really encourage y'all to check out and see the next RFP for that.
Holy Bay to us is one of the most important things that enhances the city of Oldsmar, which is, by the way, spelled with only one B and not two Bs. Mobley.
He was there when they named it.
Yeah.
And they spelled it.
For some reason, somebody in the city's Oldsmar put two Bs on it.
It really does happen all over the Bay. There are all these places that have been renamed, like Newman's Branch in Hillsborough County is Noonan's, and everyone that's local around there will tell you that it's really Noonan's Branch. So everybody's got these.
Oh, hey, listen, don't feel bad on his election campaign signs. He misspelled his last name. I'm just saying. Could you leave your card?
Absolutely.
He misspelled his own name.
Remember and use Oldsmar as an example. We built the first AWT plant
We'll take that away.
in America.
There's your takeaway for this.
We were the first city to take our poop and treat it.
Think this is a good city?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
I'm beginning to wonder. Thank you. And thank you. And I apologize for this going long. Jamie Grant was not planned, and the presentation, the two presentations, I think were very important to us for updates and everything else. So thank you for listening to it. Next is consider the moving Nicole McBride from an alternate member to a full member of the planning board. Are we here?
No, she wasn't able to come to.
Okay. She's been but she's been here before, so she's been before us. We've kind of foregone that. Yeah, last meeting. I need a motion. So moved. Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. That's part of the city of Oldsmar. Now we get to the exciting part. Mr. City Attorney.
All right, the first thing under city attorney is item number 13, the second and final reading of public hearing for ordinance 2017-10. I'll read that by title only. Ordinance 2017-10, an ordinance of the city of Oldsmar, Florida, rezoning certain real property described as vacant land generally consisting of .92 acres with a parcel identification number of 2328166936-0900010 from residential single-family R2 to Town Center Commercial Neighborhood, TCCN, and providing for the effective date. That was the second and final reading of ordinance 2017-10 by title only.
This is a public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to address this item? Dale?
Do I have to swear in?
No, this isn't the Snyder hearing. So don't swear. I'm sorry. I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
My name is Dale Renbuer, 403 Arlington Avenue East, Oldsmar. Mayor and council, nice to meet you again. As a member of the planning board, I felt I was kind of not given all the facts about what a TCCN would mean versus R2, mainly that 50-foot height. You put in the 5-foot grade like the library is, you're going to have a 55-foot structure possibly, and if you have State Street go through, School Street go through there, it will be at grade, so you'll have a nice flushing action for more muck down in my neighborhood. So if I'd have known these facts when it was presented to me at the planning board, it would not have been a 4-0 vote, which I have heard you comment on several times. Hey, the planning board was 4-0. It was unanimous.
Okay.
Well, I felt I didn't have the facts until I saw Marie's presentation, which I've alluded to before. So I am opposed to this rezoning because it does not protect the homes in the R2, which is what this was originally zoned R2 for. So if you can provide protections to those homeowners, I am not affected by this, by the way, but they are. So, and they don't come to speak.
Gotcha.
So I feel like I'm their little guard dog. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address the council? Nope, seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second? Second. Motion and a second for discussion purposes. Do we have discussion on this item? I know this is our second hearing on this.
Well, this only, it really just touches two areas that the city owns anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else?
Yeah, and I think, ultimately the protection for the citizens comes in the site plan.
In a different form.
Yeah, it doesn't, I don't think that happens here. So,
A little bit more of a housekeeping to some extent, although I do appreciate your input on the concerns, but ultimately, we do have some control over what goes in there, so. If there's no further discussion, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sedell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey?
Yes.
Councilmember Beverly?
Yes.
Mayor Beavis?
Aye.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2017-10, rezoning vacant lot east of library from residential single-family district to town-centered commercial neighborhood is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item number 14 is the first reading and public hearing of ordinance 2017-11. You'll remember that Marie Dauphiné gave a little presentation on this at a prior meeting. I'll read the ordinance 2017-11 by title only, an ordinance of the city of Oldsmar, Florida, amending section 5.7.4.3 of the Oldsmar Land Development Code to allow retail sales and display of automobiles, boat, and mobile homes as a conditional use within C3 Commercial Wholesale and Warehousing District, and providing for the effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2017-11 by title only.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Does anybody wish to address this item? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing for discussion purposes. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? The only question I have, and just for clarification of the discussion that we had previously, was there are already some permitted types of sales, and I can't remember the comparison you used, but they can sell tanks out there or bulldozers
Heavy equipment
or something like
would
that?
be one that would be a conditional use currently.
Currently.
But not automobiles or
But not-
boats.
So they could sell a big bulldozer, but they couldn't sell
I think that would be accurate, yes.
Okay.
Actually, the people before this had big bulldozers out there and could have sold them.
They
off
could,
the
right.
property.
So really, this is kind of again, a housekeeping measure. Any other comments or questions?
Doesn't affect anybody.
No, I know. Just a housekeeping thing. So if there's no other discussion, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sidel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember McGee?
Yes.
Councilmember Beverland?
Yes.
Mayor Beavis?
Aye.
First reading of ordinance 2017-11, amending the Land Development Code to allow auto sales in C3 as a conditional use, is passed with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item number 15 on your agenda is adopt resolution 2017-09. I'll read that by title only. Resolution 2017-09, a resolution by Oldsmar City Council regarding the proposed extension of the 1 cent local government infrastructure surtax, known as the penny for Pinellas, and providing for an effective date. I was reading resolution 2017-09 by title only.
Thank you. This is again something that the rest of the municipalities in the city are providing to the county. So I don't know if there's any questions on this.
Would you like a motion?
Input, any input? Motion for discussion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second, any other discussion on this or input or thoughts? I mean, I think if you have the opportunity to talk to people and tell them what the penny has done for us, in the past and what it can do for the future, from parks and recreation facilities to infrastructure improvements to, the building that we're in right now, as a matter of fact, I think it has a lot of value. So if you have an opportunity, not just us, but even the people in the audience, definitely share that.
I hope the county does a great job of selling this, because 40% of this money comes from somebody else.
The tourism, and I think to that point, and I've heard this discussion before, is that if it doesn't pass, which I hope it landslide passes, but a lot of these projects that we're able to do with this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce, but a lot of these projects that we are able to do with this money, we would have to do with taxpayer dollars if it weren't with this money. Is that correct in some cases?
Well, really, property taxes is the only other
Right.
significant source of revenue that
Right.
could be used if there wasn't the penny.
Right, correct. So I mean,
Essentially,
yeah.
a lot of these projects, they would not get done.
they would not get done, or it would be.
They really wouldn't get done. I mean, when you look at our, capital improvement budget long-term.
Sure.
And what an impact this has had on it it's amazing.
Or if we did have to do something with it, it would come out of the taxpayer dollars. So any other comments or questions or concerns on this? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
That's all I have, thanks.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Next item, authorize the city attorney to prepare a development agreement for 52 townhomes on St. Petersburg Drive East. This is the next step in the process. Previously, the council has authorized the city manager to enter into negotiations for the development agreement. This property is 3.79 acres of an approximately 7-acre parcel owned by the city east of the library. At this point, I'd like to ask our Planning and Redevelopment Director, Marie Dauphiné, to give you an update and go over the major points that we believe will be addressed more fully in the development agreement. If the council authorizes the city attorney to prepare the development agreement, it would go to the planning board and then come back to the city council for 2 public hearings at subsequent dates.
Thank you.
Okay, briefly, the salient points of the development agreement, or the draft development agreement, will include access and maintenance easements required for public utilities, the requirement to construct School Street, The architecture will be consistent with the town center code, so that will be an exhibit in the development agreement. The developer will purchase the property for $877,182, and the developer will be required to buy into the city's stormwater system. And this agreement will be valid for 5 years. So staff is recommending that the city council authorize the city attorney to prepare the development agreement.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Yeah, I have a question. So just make sure I heard you correct. So the development agreement, the terms we are requesting of them is specific to develop School Street.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay. Questions of staff?
I want to see what the development agreement looks like. I want to see what everything is, how everything's going to be put there. I'm going to vote for this because I want to see that.
Right.
But I'm telling you this, if I don't like it, and if School Street is paved, I will vote against it.
Well, I don't understand. I mean, is there a reason? I mean, just so we don't waste a lot of time, I mean, perhaps appropriate, if the council's pleasure is not to have School Street paved, then perhaps the appropriate motion would be to approve the city manager to go negotiate a development agreement and it not include the paving of School Street.
I'd be happy to tell you why I think School Street is very important to this project. In my opinion, the construction of School Street would be the difference between a good project and a great project. There are some very practical reasons for constructing the street, but if you'll indulge me, give you a little history, which Mr. Beaverland loves to do, but after 31 years, I got a little history of my own. So School Street was platted probably 80 or 90 years ago. And we've heard some residents that have stated their objections to the construction of the street. I don't know if they looked at the plat when they bought their homes or not, but School Street was on there. It's not something that just fell out of the sky.
As were other streets that were platted.
And while I'm talking about the history, I'm a neighbor, and these people who are objected to it are my neighbors. And I might talk a little bit more about the intangibles, but I remember when Arlington was a paper street where these people live today. And I don't recall anybody objecting to Arlington being built because it was expected. But the practical aspects of the construction of School Street, we're talking about a piece of property that's already there as a public right-of-way. It's, I think, 50 feet wide and maybe 200 feet long as far as what we're talking about. Maybe not that long. It's not going to change the face of the earth. But the practical aspects of it, I'm going to start with public safety. 2 ways in and out. That's for in case of a fire or ambulance. And there are more practical aspects of the construction of School Street as well for this one block between St. Petersburg Drive and Arlington. And those practical aspects in day-to-day living would include things like the garbage trucks, the mailman, UPS, FedEx. So I think it's very important that School Street be constructed as part of this project for those practical aspects of it. Now, there's some other things that I think should be given consideration. This project, like a lot of others, I think it's important to look at what's it going to be 10 or 20 years down the road, not just next year. And I think that as the town center continues to be redeveloped, it's going to be more of an area that people want to live there now. Somebody mentioned, it's not a secret, people want to live in Oldsmar. They want to come here, and we want to keep it that way. And in the town center, I see it in the future as more of a center where people will want to live, but there'll also be options there for dining, hopefully entertainment, and I think further down the road, even opportunities to work. And the people that are going to kind of want to come here will also appreciate having options rather than driving their car everywhere. They'll want to walk, ride a bicycle or use public transit, which hopefully will have some more options. Here, I'm talking, look 10, 20 years down the road. So the other part of it is, here's an example. So right now, St. Petersburg Drive gets closed periodically. Probably the parade every year is a good example.
Armadillo Run.
Maybe some of the runs. So I want you to think about the 100-plus people that might live in these 52 townhomes. You know, I think it's our job to think about them. Now, none of them are here tonight. They're not going to talk about School Street because they don't live here yet. But I think after they get here, assuming they come, they're going to be advocates, and they're going to want School Street to be there, completed between St. Petersburg Drive and Arlington. Another important point, I think we can just use common sense and look at the property, and I'm going to make a forecast. Everybody likes to be a traffic engineer if they have a driver's license, and we might have some in the audience, but common sense, I think, is going to tell us 80% of the trips or more, maybe 90%, they're going to use St. Petersburg Drive. Because if you go down School Street to Arlington, immediately you're going to have to turn left or right. Turn to the east, farthest you can go is 2 blocks. You're going to hit State and you got to turn again. Farthest you can go to the west is 2 blocks. You're going to hit Buckingham, you're going to have to turn again. The vast majority of the trips are going to be on St. Petersburg Drive anyway. But those are the reasons that School Street needs to be constructed. And there's another reason. It's more of an intangible. You know, I think about that vision statement, and Suda mentioned it earlier tonight. A creative, vibrant, and thriving community. That's what I'm after.
I think we all are,
I
right?
think so too, yeah.
Okay.
And one of the intangibles is, one of the priorities of the council is being a connected city. And when we talk about that, we're oftentimes talking about social media or other ways we interact with people. But you also connect people with streets and sidewalks.
Right.
School streets, very important to this project.
Well, I appreciate your opinion, you know, as always. I don't know that I agree with it. We vacated that street. Yeah, it was platted, but we also vacated it at some point. And, you know, I think just the natural barrier that's there from the downtown, the development, the CRA, I think it makes sense. And I think that changes it.
Well,
So,
he made a good argument for not opening it.
what's that?
He made a good argument for not opening. He said, well, if you go to Arlington, you only turn left and then you have to turn again somewhere. Or if you turn to the right, you have to turn again. To me, that's a good argument to not open it.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mayor. How many people live in Bay Arbor?
252 homes.
How many ways in and out are there?
1.
Works?
Preserves are the
I
same
can tell you
way.
it does not work. It does not work. And to answer your question a little bit further, I don't know how bad it was the other day, Dean, but there was a horrific accident right at the entrance. T-boned, cars all over the place. If somebody had had an emergency in my neighborhood, they'd have been hell-bent to be able to get back into there to get them.
How often does that happen, though? I mean,
And again, just for clarity, you're not gonna have that kind of wreck typically on St. Pete Drive, I get that, but
But we do close it down.
we do close it down.
And I
quite a
imagine
bit.
if I live there, and
And
how do
some-
you get out if the
Yeah, I
road's
mean,
entirely?
We closed down,
Shore Drive, and it's
closed
pain in the
down
State Street?
Shore Drive East
all the time.
all the time for the 5K, the 10K, or the 50K,
I would venture to
whatever it
say,
is.
and at some point down the road, Dean, I'd like to get his input, not necessarily today, but from a safety standpoint, and I think he mentioned this at our last meeting.
He did, but
Yeah,
it's,
Yeah, and I think it does get back to connected cities and streets and the way it is and things like that.
Want to
But
connect and put a sidewalk. I mean, you know, I'm just, listen, I respect your opinion, but I think that that's a good barrier. I think it keeps the integrity of that neighborhood, just like we plotted out these things very nicely.
everybody's using this up here, this statement. Well, you can use this statement for the people in Arlington. It's a good statement for the people on Arlington, not to open up. Well, I'll tell you what, we can end this real quick. I'll make a motion that we take out the construction of School Street.
But then in 20 years, who's going to pay for it? The city? Because currently, right now, under this development agreement,
They pay for it.
they pay for it.
Well, so we're not going to open it.
So
We have a motion and a second on the table.
Let me tell you this. We have probably another, I don't know, I'm just conjecturing now, another 8 or 9 miles of paper streets that we vacated in the past.
And again, just for clarification, this is just to enter into negotiations. A, we don't even know whether the street is there or not there, if we're going to even have an agreement, correct? I mean, if we can't come to an agreement on other parts of the.
There's a lot more in the agreement than School Street.
So
Yeah.
I'm in favor of bringing it forward with State Street connected, so that's my stance on it. And if we, I mean, School Street. Rendior, that was you that made me do that. But, so, I mean, I'm fine with that, if we want to vote on it, and if we.
I just see no,
Although the motion is to move forward with excluding School Street from the discussion with the prospective client, is that correct? Developer, sorry.
That is motion.
That is motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
yeah, aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Nay. Failed. Need another motion?
You don't need, no.
Another? Well,
To
we got it.
instruct the city attorney. That was what the original request was.
Forward with the development agreement.
Number 16 is authorize the city attorney to prepare the development agreement.
Do I have a motion for the
So moved.
second? Second?
second,
Okay.
I mean, I think for all the reasons we talked about, even at the last meeting, I mentioned, like West Chase Village, I think it's important as we construct more developments that there are some connections. Because if you look at West Chase Village, it's a perfect example of there's some small things like Starbucks and restaurants, and then there's some townhouses, and then there's some residential homes. And I've done run clubs and things back there, and all of those streets are connected, and it allows for residents to walk down the streets with their dogs and pick up coffee, and, and I imagine, like you said, there's not a lot of great ways to exit the townhouse community through Arlington, so I imagine it would be minimal impact from those residents actually going through there, but it would be there in case of emergency or if we had to close the road. But it would also allow the residents that live on Arlington to come to the town center as we build that out, whether it were a community center or whether it is something else downtown that we're working to build out. It gives more options. I don't see it being something as all those people are going to take Arlington. I know if I lived there, I would go to St. Pete Drive because there's a light. There's one stop sign, that's all I have to get through, the quickest way to get to Tampa Road. It just makes the most sense. I understand the concerns, I understand the concern of a road being next to your home where there hasn't been one, so I totally understand those points. But I also think it makes sense, and you do have to think about future residents that are gonna come to the city, that are going to be residents and taxpayers, and for them to be able to have the option of having another way out if the road were closed or where there was emergency.
for me,
I think it's important.
Gabby, it really, just so you understand, it's all about the fire department and the safety of the citizens. That's it really is important that these people are safe. If there's a fire or if there's a medical emergency, our staff can get in and out.
There's going to be other ways to get in and out. There's going to be other ways on St. Petersburg Drive to get in and out and not.
Okay, well, this is just to negotiate a development agreement. It's going to go before the planning board. There's going to be 2 public hearings for this. I'd rather see it in entirety as a whole.
Yeah, that's fine. But I will say, and I agree with Gabby as it relates to the connectivity. The reality of it is, though, people on Arlington are not going to drive through a condo complex to get to the other side. That's not happening. That's so impractical.
They're not going to walk through that.
Hold on.
I mean, I'm just saying that I don't think that's very practical, right? I mean, they might, maybe a sidewalk through there that you're still connected, because that's all, a golf cart, something like that, where it's not something heavy. And so, just from the standpoint of a vibrant, thriving community being connected, there's other ways to do that. I will say this, and I'm, unless I hear, something that changes my mind, I'm just of the mindset that it's a good natural buffer that's there. That's all.
And I'll add this, and then we can go for a vote, because we still have plenty of dialogue on this at future meetings. But, and to your point, and to the point of, whether they'll go to St. Pete or they'll go to Arlington, you know, as Bruce said, we don't know what's going to be in 10 years. So let's say hypothetically I live on Arlington and you live in the condos and you want to have a get-together, or our kids want to get together. I have to go, you know, to come to your house, I have to go all the way around. I mean, it's again, connected cities. I mean, you know.
Come on, man.
But I don't think the street is, I don't think.
Why? Why isn't that reality?
To a buffer. I think the buffer exists already. The street is a connectivity, but a street
You
is
have
not.
two ways in and out of your street.
Yeah, I know. How fortunate am I? I bought it that way.
I
Just
know.
like they're going to buy it with one way in. Listen, the reality of it is, if you want to go play with their kids, you're going to get in your car and you're going to drive over there and go. You're going to walk around. I mean, it's what people do now. So I understand that maybe that street would make it easier for their kids to be friends, but I have a feeling it would have zero impact.
I will guarantee you, now I will guarantee this.
Guarantee us.
I'll guarantee it. Before it's over with, there's gonna be 2 or 3 ways in and out of that.
How?
You got State Street. We own all the land.
Well,
I mean, St. Pete Drive. We own all that land. And when the rest of the land is developed, we're gonna put roads in there.
But you don't know because you won't be here. I mean, that's the point, is right now we have to make the
I
decisions.
do know that.
I mean, you may be here. We probably won't be here, but.
You're on fire.
Just call it, you better call the question because I'm afraid what's coming my way.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't mean as a person, I mean on council.
There's gonna be roads coming off of State Street into there.
I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be here either.
Here to make the decision.
You want to push this one down the road a little bit, Bruce?
I think y'all ought to vote.
No, I do too. I'm ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
No,
What?
I voted aye.
Okay.
I vote no.
Okay, 4-1.
I don't want to kill it.
Yes, the vote was 4-1. Item 17, approve ranking and authorize the city manager to negotiate contract for design services for Oldsmar Sports Complex Phase 1B. So we have received the proposals. The staff evaluated the proposals. Stantec is ranked number 1. And at the work session Friday, Felicia Donnelly, our Leisure Services Director, did give the council an update on the sports complex and why we're moving forward with Phase 1B. So I'm not going to cover that again. Tonight I am recommending that you authorize us to, or approve the ranking and authorize us to negotiate a contract with Stantec Consulting Services for design services, Oldsmar Sports Complex, Phase 1B.
Thank you. Stantec's team is here. I don't know if you guys want to come forward and address the council on anything. We're excited about it. Is it done yet? Mike, if you want to come up, you're welcome to come up.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Dave Kemper with Stantec.
Did you ever think you would say thank you, Mayor, to me when we worked together? When we worked together years ago?
Keep an open mind, right? No. Hey, we have a number of our team members here. We have Leah
Introduce them.
Tasto with Stantec, and I think many of you know Leah's done quite a bit of work at the park and other facilities here. Francisco Semch, FSA Architects, and Mike Mills with Icon. So these are certainly some of our key team members, and we're excited. We love to continue our work here in Oldsmar, love to continue our work on this site. Understand it's a priority. Love to see that soccer field move forward and the rest of the park. So nothing's easy. We all know there's no easy projects left. So there's a few challenges, but we certainly feel like we have the right team and ready to go.
Yeah, and first of all, I appreciate you hanging out with us. Sorry we went a little bit long, but we're excited about it. I think this is probably the first really step in taking that park to a whole new level, you know, on a lot of different things, and allowing us to expand the things that we do here, whether it's, you know, MLS soccer, you know, or youth soccer and tournaments throughout, you know, the area, and attracting those types of things. And I know Felicia mentioned at the workshop, you know, for us to be able to combine with Clearwater and other areas to provide the number of fields that are needed to host some of these big tournaments. I think that's huge, and I think the same applies to the Little League baseball, and, you know, and obviously football will be there, and our, you know, our BMX track, our Olympic style BMX track. You know, I think that's just going to enhance it. And I think that was the thought after we finished the Olympic style BMX track, is that, you know, we had put this premier facility in here, and now it's time to step up the game on the rest of the facility. And we're excited about the site plan that you did for us to give us an idea as a council as to what we can expect from it. And I appreciate Felicia, committing to 1B, and hopefully we'll have something and we'll have an agreement with MLS to host one of those things here. That's huge for the city of Oldsmar. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions of the team. I know them and I know they do good work. So at any rate.
We're excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a motion?
Yeah, I need a motion to accept the recommendation.
Second?
A motion and a second. Barry, you got anything? You got your arms crossed, I always wonder. Motion and a second.
My wife
Anything?
balls me out for that all the time. That's just
you. We take you with all your quirks, so.
Well, she says it looks like I'm mad all the time.
Yeah, she still stays with you. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye, thank you. Thanks for coming. Apologize for the length.
Thank you. Mayor and council, the next item, approve work order with Jones Edmonds for RFQ 1603, the Harbor Palms Infrastructure Improvement Design Services.
I don't know about this one.
So to give some background briefly, a little over a year ago, in the summer of last year, the agreement for professional services for design work was entered into with Jones Edmonds. And at that time, the agreement is divided into 5 major tasks. Task 1 and 2 were funded in the budget that year, and that work was approved. And so now we're ready to move the design phase forward. And tonight I'm requesting that you authorize this work order for task 3, 4, and 5. The amount is $146,000. If you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to respond to those.
They're here as well. Do you guys have anything that you need to add or no? You good? Thank you. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor and council, item 19, award bid B1708 for downtown water main replacement project. So we received 9 bids, and tonight I am recommending that the bid be awarded to Keystone Excavators in the amount of $2,462,318.10. Funds for this are appropriated in the current year budget, includes the replacement of water mains in the older part of the city, and some small portion of this is also some additional reclaimed water line construction in the same area. Keystone Excavators is a local company located here in Oldsmar. They have done work for us on numerous projects going back probably 25 years. If you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to respond to those.
So moved.
Motion?
Second?
Second, motion, second.
I got
Yeah, and I mean, I think, I wasn't involved in the scoring or anything like that, but I think it speaks a lot that they've been a partner with the city for 20-something years and worked on various projects. I think for us, on a comfort level, I think that goes a long way towards getting this project done successfully, so.
I got a comment.
Yeah.
In 1988, the council and the city engineer said it would cost $18 million to pave all the streets in this town. And I was on council, and I went to Keystone, and I said, would you ride with me? And we rode the town, and what would y'all pave the streets for in this town? And some people had said, well, it's only going to be a Band-Aid street. Well, that was in 1992, and the streets are still there, and Keystone said we'd do it for $1.5 million.
Wow.
I got great confidence in Keystone.
Good. Good, that sounds great. Did I get a motion?
Yeah, a motion and a
Motion
second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and council, item 20, approve emergency medical services, ALS first responder agreement with Pinellas County. I'd like to ask Chief O'Neill to give you some background on the agreement. And also, we passed out tonight an updated version. It has a memo from the chief on the cover that some minor changes to the agreement from what was in the packet. So what you'll be voting on tonight, and I'm recommending approval, is of the agreement that we passed out to you earlier this evening.
O'Neill, Fire and EMS Chief. What you have in front of you is this year's Pinellas County ALS First Responder Agreement. This agreement's for 2 years till September the 30th of 2019. It has 3 one-year extensions. As long as those extensions don't exceed more than 3%, the county has agreed to fund those. The amount of this contract is $446,500, up from $410 last year. Not too many significant cost increases. One significant increase is the county, through a data-driven focus group, has decided that each of the departments that have ALS EMS coordinators, they're going to fund those positions now at 50%. Up until this point, they've been funding that position at 25%. So our EMS coordinator, in this case is Lieutenant Young, they'll fund his position now at 50%, which is 50% of salary, benefits, and some equipment. And about every 10 years or so, as we replace his vehicle, they actually pay a percentage of that as well. They had originally sent out the contract and had some, or the agreement, and had some typos in it. Didn't affect anything with the cost or the reimbursement. It was just some grammatical errors that were changed. They sent the new one out. We have copies of that for you now.
Okay, thank you. Other than the changes that you mentioned with the percent change, not counting the Scribner's errors, is there anything else? Does it meet your satisfaction? Okay. Anything else? Any questions of him? Motion?
So moved.
Second? Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Aye.
Thank you. Council comments. Huh? Oh, City Clerk, you got anything?
Oh, no.
Sorry. Oh. That was a setup, wasn't it? All right. Start with Councilmember Seidel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of things. One, I do want to make a point of thanking Representative Grant for coming tonight and giving us an update, speaking directly to the council. And
he does speak direct, too.
Does speak direct, which I respect and appreciate, but I do want to make a comment and put on that. Also, on the budget workshop, thought it was a really good budget workshop. The information that was provided was spot on. I love the way that the information is assembled and put together. I think it makes it very clear and easy for council to be able to digest it and understand clearly how we're voting and what we're voting on. So props to everyone involved in that and the department that put it together. Y'all take a bow. In spite of Al, you did a great job.
I was going to say, the first part of the presentation was way better than the second.
You know, I'm going to do that every chance I have, Al. You know, it's funny, I was reading the press release for Earth Fair coming to Oldsmar, right? And I think it said, and if I'm wrong, don't correct me, I think it said that they're in 4 cities. This will be the 4th city.
In
Florida.
In Florida, right. And it was Jacksonville, Gainesville, Ocala, and Oldsmar. I don't know. Not too bad to be in that group, the way that they're thinking.
Jacksonville needs to step up their game.
I'm telling you,
Will they
man.
have one in Seminole?
Oh, there was one in Seminole. You're right. There was 4. Okay, I said not to correct me, Gabby, but thank you anyhow.
Remember what I said a couple years ago when I emailed them? They said, now this is what's so funny is years ago, they were looking in the area, but it's taken them years.
I do remember you saying that.
Yeah, I sent them the email and they said that they were looking in areas that were convenient to Oldsmar, but they did not say in Oldsmar. So they weren't even considering us years ago. So it's pretty great
I
to
think
see
it's
that
pretty
they're-
cool to think of that kind of group where
The
they
dynamic. Well,
how
hopefully
they
you'll be
value,
there
you
at
know, how
the
we're valued.
soft open and you can bring that point up.
Oh, I
Last thing I have,
definitely
Mr. Mayor, is just a reminder, everybody, drive safe. The kids are back in school.
That's all I got. Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is budget meeting. As you know, as Eric said, great meeting. Loved it. One thing I wanted to mention tonight, Jerry, I had no idea that Brian Smith's mom's, you were so involved with that. Brian is a very unique guy. When I'm driving my truck around the city, he always waves. He always says hello to me.
Always.
I have, in the last year and a half, now I pull over on the side of the road, and he is just a great guy, and I had no idea of what you taught me tonight. And that's one thing I love about this city, is every time I come to a meeting or I'm involved with something, I learned something new about someone here in our community that cares as much as I do. And Jerry, thank you so much for that today. I appreciate it. And I've got to be on the road at 5 o'clock to go to Orlando, and that's all I got.
So Jerry, if you could tell a couple more history lessons.
We got time, Jerry.
We got time, because I'm not leaving till about 11 tomorrow.
I leave it.
And I'm taking his wife with me,
Yeah.
so.
Because she wants to sleep in.
It's a whole
Wants to
different
sleep
story.
Welcome to Oldsmar.
I ain't, Mayor,
No, go ahead.
I ain't going at all.
I know you're not. Is
You're going to miss a good
You're
time.
gonna miss out on the pyramid.
that all you got?
Yeah.
Jeez, please don't. Spirit of
Councilmember
war.
McGee.
I just had one thing. I will be absent at the next meeting, so I just want to give you guys a heads up. Hopefully, you'll excuse my absence, but I'll be
Oh,
traveling
we'll see, maybe.
that day after Labor Day weekend.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
that's all I have. Thank you.
And I don't have much. I want to echo what Eric said, and I kind of mentioned this in passing to others, is the report, the budget report, it's a double-edged sword. It's such a great report that it allows the common guy like us, you know, to understand and absorb what's in the budget. The bad part is we absorb what's in the budget and we ask questions. So, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged. So, but again, hats off to them. It was very informative and well put together, and it better win another award. So no pressure at all on that. But, and then I just want to add one piece, and I think currently right now it only applies to Dan and myself, but I think I mentioned this to Bruce, and I want it to be very short and brief under council comments, and only if it's applicable, but I'm on 3 boards right now, the PSTA, the TDC, and the MPO or Forward Pinellas. I'll be coming off the PSTA after September, starting in October. It'll be Tarpon Springs, right? Tarpon Springs, but if there's anything of value from your Suncoast League of Cities, and I mean really just bullet points like PSTA, you know, we're buying 9 hybrid buses, or we've got a grant for 2 electric buses in downtown St. Pete. I think it's important that not only do I bring that back to share with the council and the people, but I think it's something that we should be doing to share what's going, in case somebody asks us what's going on, or, you know, if the MPO is doing something that affects the city, because theirs is more planning stuff, and likewise with the TDC, it's kind of interesting to see what's going on. For instance, Felicia's putting together a package that's going to be going before the TDC for funding for Canal Park. So, you know, that process is interesting. No dialogue about it, really, just kind of bullet items, and same with you.
Right.
You know, MPOs, there might not be anything to talk about of any significance. So just kind of if there's any significant, I know Tom provides us with legislative things, so we don't need to double dip on that.
I just wanted to touch base. I did have my meeting on Monday, and they did talk about the Skyway connection, but it wasn't really relevant to the city of Oldsmar, so I didn't want to bring it up tonight, but they do have.
But if it helps the community a little bit and it's a bullet item, that's fine, you know.
And I'm just brief. It's actually kind of unique because they merge Manatee County with Pinellas County. And what it really is for veterans, so that for $10 a day, they can get a full pass from Manatee County. There's 3 stops in Manatee County. They hop on his bus, they take them all the way to Pinellas County, the Veterans Hospital, and there's also 3 other stops in Pinellas County, and they can go around on this bus, and they can take their bike. And, I mean, it's really actually pretty interesting, but that was just a one
Good,
small
and I think those are things that are important for us to know and share, and if you run into somebody, I mean, and just short and sweet, that's all. I think it's something that we should do. I'm trying to do a better job, like with the PSTA, that I'm a representative for the 2 other cities. You know, I've tried to do a better job of sharing with them and keeping them in the loop. So I think we need to do a better job of keeping us and our citizens in the loop. So, and I say that of any of us that are on any board at any time to, you know, just bring back kind of any update information we have. So, anything else? No?
Mayor?
Ann, you got anything?
Nope.
Mayor?
Deputy City Clerk, do you have anything?
He's got something.
Ignoring you.
You got anything, Tom? Yes, Jerry.
Are you going to give me a chance for council comments?
You said, I thought you didn't have any.
No, I didn't say a word. You didn't ask me.
Did I not?
I did ask you, but.
I did ask you, and you went off on a tangent somewhere, so go ahead before I whack this thing on the... You just said, I asked you, and you said, I'm not going to the League of Cities. I thought that was your comment.
I don't remember you asking me. But anyway, by the way, the Howard Frank,
Courtney Campbell?
no, the bridge you just talked about.
Yes, Skyway.
Skyway comes from Manatee to Hillsborough, then to Pinellas.
Yeah.
part of us in Hillsborough County. Anyway, glad who you are.